Folks, on the television side, we welcome you to West Allegheny High School in Imperial, Pennsylvania, where Woodland Hills takes on West A. 7:42 to go in quarter number one. West Allegheny driving on the Wolverines. This is the second drive of the football game. Chase Dillon, the ball carrier on that play, brought down inside of the 15, and it will be third down and short for West Allegheny. And again, folks, on the television side, we apologize for missing the early portion of the football game. But again, it's 0-0 early in quarter number one. Woodland Hills and West Allegheny in the premier matchup of the evening. Woodland Hills went 3 and out on their first possession, punted it to West A. West Allegheny's drive started at the Woodland Hills 48-yard line, and right now, West Allegheny driving. Again, it's 3rd and 2 for the Indians with the football at the Woodland Hills 15. Coaster in the shotgun. No, they're going to run the Wildcat, and the Wolverines saw it coming from a mile away. Chase Dillon took the direct snap, tried to run to his right, and Akira McLean was all over it. And that brings up 4th and a little bit longer. That pushes the ball back to the 20-yard line, and the field goal unit is going to come on.
Now, Adam, I was watching this kicker warm up this afternoon before the game, and he was actually putting 50-yarders through the uprights with look like minimal effort. So it should be interesting. Number 22, DJ Orbstanek is the kicker.
And this field goal will be 34 yards from the right hash. Again, clock running down to 6:20 to go here in a scoreless first quarter. And the field goal is up. And that field goal is good, and West Allegheny scores first. With 6:11 to play in quarter number one, it's West Allegheny 3 and Woodland Hills 0. You're tuned into the Wolverines and the Indians all across the Woodland Hills Football Network. And again, we welcome you back to West Allegheny High School, an early kickoff for this game between the Woodland Hills Wolverines and the West Allegheny Indians. Woodland Hills 3 and out on their first possession. They punt it to West Allegheny, and West Allegheny starts their drive at the Woodland Hills 48-yard line, and a methodical 4+ minute drive is capped off by a 34-yard field goal by DJ Orbstanek. And Orbstanek will kick this one off to the far sideline, and a flag comes in. I think West Allegheny was offsides on the kickoff. And that is the initial signal. Well, Fred, good news for the Woodland Hills defense. They, felt a lot of pressure on that first drive. West Allegheny was moving the ball effectively, but they were able to come up with a big play on third down and short. A loss of 3 on the play. Akira McLean sniffed it out, and that led to the field goal.
Yeah, the one thing I noticed on that first drive were a lot of missed tackles, a lot of juke fakes by West A, which caused a lot of missed tackles by Woodland Hills, which gave, West A a lot of good yardage.
So DJ Orbstanek will kick off again, this time from his own 35 instead of the 40. And again, back deep for the Wolverines as usual, Sanders and Tompkins, the future Nittany Lion and Toledo Rocket, respectively. And Orbstanek will boot this one, and it will carry over the head of Miles Sanders into the end zone. Automatic touchback will give Woodland Hills the football. First down and 10 at the 20-yard line. And Fred, you talked about it already, that DJ Orbstanek had already, shown his leg in the pregame, and he did it there.
Yeah, I mean, he was just booming kickoffs and field goals when I was watching him during warm-ups, and it was kind of impressive because he is really not a big kid at all. He only stands 5'7", 140 pounds.
So the first 3 plays for Woodland Hills was a 3-yard rush by Miles Sanders, an incomplete pass, and a sack for a loss of 17. Shotgun formation, handoff will go to Joel Shaw. A flag comes in from the far sideline pre-snap, and either West Allegheny was in the neutral zone at the snap or Woodland Hills moved prior to the snap. We shall see. It's a false start against the Wolverines, and that is 2 pre-snap penalties today against Woodland Hills, Fred. And that was something that killed the Wolverines a week ago, even though they won the game by 32 points.
Yeah, I believe it was, 3 touchdowns that were called back due to penalty and a ton of pre-snap penalties to just really set the tone for the offense back a little bit after they have done such a great job the previous 2 weeks.
6:10 clock stopped here in the first quarter. It's West Allegheny 3 and Woodland Hills 0. Sidecar to the left of Jeremiah Jones. He'll hand off to Joel Shaw, who lowers his shoulders, gets to the line of scrimmage. Maybe a pickup of 1 and no further. The whistles blew maybe prematurely because Shaw was off to the races down the far side after it was bottled up initially. But either way, it is 2nd down and 14 for the Wolverines.
And again, this defensive line for West A has really been a catalyst so far for their football team on defense, because they are just really getting after the ball carrier on defense right now.
Play being run in by Yvonne Price. Clock winding down to 5:33 to go in quarter number 1. Woodland Hills trailing West Allegheny 3-zip. Wolverines facing a 2nd down and 14 from their own 16. Receivers split to either side. Sidecar to the left of Jeremiah Jones. Jones going to throw it deep down the near side, and it's caught by Jamon Dunn. A Wolverine 1st down, and that by far is the favorite target of Jeremiah Jones. Jamon Dunn. Dunn on the year, Freddie, has done incredible things. Just 4 catches coming into today for 206 yards.
Yeah, and I think what happened was West A's defense was really focusing on Art Tompkins on that play, and really, wasn't really paying attention to Jamon Dunn when Jamon Dunn's been pretty much their most prolific receiver so far this year.
26-yard completion on that pass play. And I believe that is the shortest reception on the year for Jamon Dunn. Handoff goes to big Joel Shaw. He's rumbling down the near sideline, inside of the 40, forced out of bounds at the 35-yard line. A big pickup there, and the offense is rolling now.
Yeah, Adam, I couldn't see which West A defender. I think it was number 24, Whitney White, pretty much took himself out of the play. He came in on a outside linebacker blitz, and it was picked up nicely by the Woodland Hills offensive line. But once Joel Shaw got past the line of scrimmage, he picked up a nice block down the field, and really good run by Joel.
23-yard run for the big fella. And with 4:47 to go, the clock stopped here in quarter number 1. Woodland Hills 1st and 10 at the West A 35-yard line. Pistol formation, trips to the left. Handoff Joel Shaw. Straight up the gut, driving his way forward. Inside of the 30, brought down near the 27-yard line.
And this is where Woodland Hills is starting to get going, especially on the offensive line. I'm sure offensive line coach Kevin Murray took those guys aside, gave them an ear ripping, and they're coming out looking really sharp on this second series.
Again, a pickup on that play of 8 yards for Joel Shaw, and Shaw has 3 carries for 32 yards. Sidecar to the left of Jones is Shaw. Trips to the left. Straight drop back. Jones is going to throw it down the near boundary right, looking for Jamon Dunn, and he will overthrow everybody. Nice man-to-man coverage by Tyler Scanlon for West A, and the incomplete pass brings up 3rd down, and a fairly manageable 2.
Yeah, I was watching Jamon Dunn on that last play. It looked like he slowed up a little bit, not sure if he was going to get the ball, but when you've been the quarterback's main target all season long, you got to expect the ball on every play.
Especially when you have 5 catches on the season for over 225 yards. It's a pretty good average. Pistol formation with Shaw behind Jones, trips to the left. One receiver to the near side right, hand off to Shaw. Everybody in the stadium knew he was going to get it, and there he goes. He lost his right shoe as he carries the ball across the goal line for an incredible 27-yard touchdown. Shoeless Joel Shaw.
And I'm looking for the flags, Adam, and I don't see anything right now, so that's really good. Excellent, right up the gut play by Joel Shaw. Lost his shoe, broke some tackles, didn't matter. Got himself in the end zone and put Woodland Hills on the board.
4:01 to play in quarter number 1. Woodland Hills takes the lead 6-3 over the West Allegheny Indians. And on to attempt the PAT is John Leone. Hold by Whitehurst. The kick by Leone is up, and that is good. And Woodland Hills takes a 4-point lead with 4:01 to play in quarter number 1. You're tuned into the Wolverines and the Indians all across the Woodland Hills Football Network. A 27-yard touchdown run by shoeless Joel Shaw puts Woodland Hills on top 7-3. Joel Shaw ran between right guard and right tackle, lost his shoe as he crossed the line of scrimmage, and still was able to rumble 27 yards across the goal line for the Woody High TD. The PAT up and in for John Leone, and again the Wolverines are on top 7-0.
And that was an impressive drive by Woodland Hills, who hasn't seen a deficit since the Bethel Park game when they were down early. they just did a good job of composure. And the one thing that they really haven't used a lot of, and I think they might be saving him for later in the game, is Miles Sanders.
That is a very good possibility. And, you know, Bob Palco talked about how much respect he has for Miles Sanders. Woodland Hills splitting him out at receiver. Don't be surprised if you see him in some trickery as the game progresses. John Leone, and low end over end kick, carries inside of the 15, inside of the 10, where it will be returned by West Allegheny up to around the 20-yard line. The return man, Terrence Stevens. And it'll be 1st and 10 for the Indians. Again, the ball at their own 20-yard line.
Yeah, the biggest thing about Miles Sanders is his average right now, 15.8 yards per carry. That is an astonishing figure considering all of the touchdowns and long runs that he's had called back so far this year.
3:56 to go here in the first quarter. Woodland Hills with a 7-3 lead over the West Allegheny Indians. An incredible crowd along the near sideline for the Woodland Hills Wolverines, traveling deep from the east suburbs to the West Hills. And the first play, no gain for West Allegheny as they'll run it straight up the middle. The ball carrier this time is Armand Delavade, and Delavade, the 6-foot senior, is brought down at the line of scrimmage.
And so far what I've noticed with this West Allegheny offense is they're running a lot of I formation, but what they're doing is they're splitting out their running backs and their fullbacks, putting more guys into the formation and trying to run right up the middle against Woodland Hills.
Two receivers to either side. Now Stevens motions from left to right. And a screen pass to the near sideline is caught for a loss of 2 yards. A great job peeling back there by Akira McLean. He saw the screen pass slip over his head. He retreated and knocked Armand Delavade out of bounds along the near boundary for a loss of about 2 yards, maybe 3, back inside the 20 to the 17.
And Woodland Hills is not fooling for any trick plays or any motions that West Allegheny is running right now. I think they got a lot used to it on that first drive, but right now they're really stepping up their game.
Coaster in the shotgun. Sidecar to his right, trips to the right of the formation. One receiver to the near short boundary left. 3rd down and 13. Ball at the 17. Coaster, straight drop back, late pressure. He's hit as he releases the football, and the pass is incomplete down the near sideline. A delayed blitz there by the Wolverines. Damon Johnson put the pressure on late, and that forced the incompletion.
And what I noticed about Coaster is he's really not looking off any receivers. He had his receiver eyed up the entire way as soon as he got the ball, and then Woodland Hills did a great job of just bringing some good pressure.
3rd and 7, or rather 4th and 13 with 3:07 to play. On to punt is the punt unit for West Allegheny. One return man for Woodland Hills is Art Tompkins. Still 10 seconds to go on the play clock here as West Allegheny will finally settle into their punt formation. Again, 4th and 13 here. Rugby-style punt running to his right is the West A punter. Tompkins retreats, catches the football on the retreat at the 44, cuts it to the far boundary. And he will be forced down as he crosses the far boundary. Right around the 49-yard line is where his forward progress will be stalled. And it'll be 1st and 10 for Woodland Hills with pretty decent field position.
Yeah, that was a great punt by the West A punter, and a good job of Art Tompkins of sticking with the ball as it was in the air. I thought he might have gotten to the wall on that side, but it was kind of hard for us to see at this angle. But I just thought he might have been able to turn it up and get us some more yards.
2:55 to go here in quarter number 1. It's Woodland Hills 7 and West Allegheny 3. We thank you for joining us all across the Woodland Hills Football Network. Pistol formation. Jones hands off to Joel Shaw, and Shaw will be met in the backfield. His forward progress stopped around the 46-yard line, so it'll be a loss of 3 for the big fella.
Yeah, Whitney White, again, making some noise in the backfield. He's done a great job. I can't really tell right now if he's an outside linebacker, defensive lineman, maybe even a quarterback, because he is all over the place right now.
2:29 to play in quarter number 1. Woodland Hills leading West Allegheny here in Imperial, PA. Jeremiah Jones sends Art Tompkins to the right of the formation. That puts trips to the right. Miles Sanders, the lone setback in the pistol. Hand off. Sanders trying to bounce it right, and he will dive his way forward for a pickup of just about a yard, and that'll bring up 3rd down and about 12.
And West Allegheny's doing a good job of making sure they're making sure tackles. They're not letting not letting Miles Sanders get a burst of speed or bouncing off a defender so he can pick up some positive yardage.
1:41, clock rolling here in quarter number 1. Woodland Hills on top of West Allegheny, 7-3. Woodland Hills out of the huddle. Shotgun formation. Sidecar to the left of Jeremiah Jones is Joel Shaw. So receivers on either side. Jones will step up into the pocket, and he will be met at the line of scrimmage and get no further. It'll actually be a loss of 1, but not a sack on the play. And that brings up 4th down and 13. So Woodland Hills, 2 drives, not much going, but the middle drive, very successful.
Yeah, Jeremiah Jones had a good opportunity to sit back and just relax because West Allegheny was only bringing 3 linemen on their rush. He could have just sat back and surveyed a little bit and then maybe moved around to get an open receiver.
Rushbridge will punt this one away. Spiraling punt. Will bounce into the hands of the West A return man on the run, and he is undercut trying to leap over Hassan Ganem. And not a great decision as Ganem put the contact to the legs, and nearly end over end went that return man, Tyler Amadori.
Yeah, Amadori's really lucky he didn't come up with an injury on that play. Special teams demon Hassan Ganem has just done a great job all year, and in that play, you know, if your opponent's going to run and jump, you might as well hit his legs and see what happens.
So 1st and 10 for West Allegheny at their own 30. They were forced to punt on their last possession. High backfield. Handoff will go to Terrence Stevens, and Stevens will drive his way forward across the 30. Close to the 35. They'll say he's down around the 34. A pickup of 4 brings up 2nd down and 6.
And right now, West Allegheny's going back into methodical mode in terms of offense because they really haven't done anything spectacular in terms of pass plays or even big running plays, but they're just chipping their way down the field.
And that will be the last play of quarter number 1. Well, we have played 12 minutes of exciting football here in Imperial, Pennsylvania. And as we head to the 2nd quarter, the scoreboard reads Woodland Hills 7 and West Allegheny 3. You're tuned into the Wolverines and the Indians all across the Woodland Hills Football Network.
A lot of points scored in this game, so they really need to value turnovers or mistakes. Great job by both teams so far early in this game.
Allegheny faces a 2nd down and 6. A pass across the middle is incomplete as Andrew Coaster was looking for Sean Orsini. Orsini couldn't hang on to that one, and that brings up 3rd down and 6.
And Orsini coming from his tight end position is one of Coaster's favorite targets.
Yeah, Orsini on the year. He has combined with Danny Guilfoyle for 16 catches and over 300 yards and 7 TDs. West Allegheny out of the huddle. 2 receivers right, 1 to the far boundary left, sidecar to the right of Coaster. Motion man from right to left is Scanlon. Coaster looks right the whole way, and it is in and out of the hands of Mike Nash. And Nash nearly had that one picked off, and he felt that Tyler Amadori came in there a little bit early maybe. Either that or Amadori grabbed his face mask. Either way, an incomplete pass brings up 4th down and 6.
Yeah, Mike Nash is really lucky he didn't get flagged a 15-yard penalty for unsportsmanlike conduct because that was just a great read by Mike Nash, but as he broke on the ball, maybe the receiver did bump into him or grab his face mask or whatever the case may be, but
well, it seemed like Amadori was hanging on after the play, and Nash gave him the extra shove, and these officials just said, you know what, it went both ways, swallow the whistles, swallow the flags. So the punter is on for West Allegheny. Running to the right, and he thought about running, but instead will boot it away. And that was Amadori, the punter, and he gets a very nice West Day roll as that ball will roll all the way down towards the 15. It will be down at the 16-yard line, and a very nice punt for Tyler Amadori. Gives Woodland Hills the ball deep inside of their own territory at the 16.
And that's going to have to wake up the special teams of Woodland Hills if they know Amadori has the ability and has the green light to run it if he sees some open field.
11:40 to play here in quarter number 2. Woodland Hills has the football, 1st and 10 at their own 16. Woodland Hills out of the huddle. Shotgun formation, sidecars to either side, 2 receivers to the near side left. Jones sends Tompkins in motion. Hand off to Miles Sanders. He'll go straight up the middle, driving his way forward, dancing his way across the 20. He'll be brought down at the 21 for a 5-yard gain, and that was the biggest hole of the evening thus far for Miles Sanders.
And right now, that's really what Woodland Hills needs to do with Miles Sanders is be patient, let the yards come as they come, and try not to force anything.
11:15, clock rolling here in quarter number 2. The Wolverines on top, 7-3. 2 receivers left, 1 to the far boundary right. Jeremiah Jones sends a man in motion, and that motion man will take the handoff. It's Isaiah Brooks on the jet sweep, and he will be brought down right at the line of scrimmage. No gain on the play, brings up 3rd down and 5.
Yeah, typically Woodland Hills runs that play with Art Tompkins. Felt that they could get some positive yardage with Isaiah Brooks, but West Day did a great job of sniffing that out.
So no gain there, brings up again. It's 3rd down and 5 for Woodland Hills. Woodland Hills has faced a couple of 3rd and mediums, and West Allegheny's defense has put the pressure on Jeremiah Jones. Wolverines out of the huddle. Shotgun, sidecars to either side of Jeremiah Jones. 1 receiver to the short boundary on the far sideline, 2 receivers to the near side left. And I think West Allegheny wants a timeout, and they will take a timeout, and that'll give us an opportunity to take a breather as well. 10:19 to play in quarter number 2. It's Woodland Hills 7 and West Allegheny 3. You're tuned into the Wolverines and the Indians all across the Woodland Hills Football Network. 10:19 to play in quarter number 2. It's Woodland Hills 7 and West Allegheny 3. Adam Gusky, Fred Guy on the call for you here on the Woodland Hills Football Network. The Wolverines facing this 3rd down and 5 at their own 21-yard line. We've seen the Wolverines be immensely successful on 3rd down in their 2nd drive of the football game, and we've seen them stymied on 3rd down on their 1st and 3rd drives. Let's see what happens here on this 3rd and 5. Jeremiah Jones in the shotgun, 2 receivers right, 1 to the near boundary left, sidecars to either side. Jones will send Tompkins in motion from right to left. The snap carries over the head of Jones. Jones trying to make something out of nothing here, and the ball comes loose. They're going to say it's an incomplete pass. Jeremiah Jones tried a shovel pass towards Miles Sanders. The incomplete pass will give Woodland Hills an opportunity to punt this football away, and talk about dodging a bullet.
Yeah, that is a big bullet that Woodland Hills dodged. Good job. I mean, I can't even say it was a good job at all on that play. It was a bobbled snap. It went over the head of Jeremiah Jones. He picked it up, tried to look down the field, couldn't find anything, and luckily for Woodland Hills, it was an incomplete pass.
Coaching staff for West State not at all happy that was called an incomplete pass. Woodland Hills again dodging the bullet, and Jake Rushbridge will come on to punt it away. Flags come in at the snap, and it came from the far boundary. And I think it may be against Woodland Hills for a procedural penalty. And Woodland Hills will punt the ball from their own 16 now, where this drive started.
You know, and as well as Jake Rushbridge has done so far in this game of switching the field and getting Woodland Hills out of trouble, what he's doing right now is he's out-kicking his coverage, which means West Day is doing a good job of initial contact and keeping the Wolverines at bay.
So now Rushbridge will stand at his own 1-yard line, and he'll boot this one away. Spiraling beauty of a punt. Talk about changing field position as the ball bounces into the hands of Amadori. He will find an opening initially, and he'll be brought down at the 44-yard line. A flag comes in inside of the 40, most likely against West Allegheny. There's another flag out near the middle of the field as well. But what a great punt by Rushbridge as he stood at his own 1-yard line and booted that all the way to the opponent's 34-yard line roughly. In the air, that is 66 yards.
And I think we got an illegal block in the back by West A, which is going to back them up even further. But to your what you were just saying, Adam, that was an excellent punt by Rusbridge. And Amaderi is going to have nightmares of a song Ghanem because he made another special teams tackle for the Woodland Hills Wolverines.
That was a 50-yard punt. And after the penalty, it's a net of 53 yards. What a punt. Wow.
Impressive for sure.
So this will set West Allegheny up at their own 32. 10 minutes to play here as Woodland Hills is all over Chase Dillon in the backfield. Dillon will lean his way towards the line of scrimmage, and that'll be about it. No gain on the play, 2nd down and 10.
Yeah, and there was a lot of questions whether Chase Dillon was going to even play in this ball game due to the fact that it was, quote-unquote, the biggest game that meant really nothing in the Whitfield this year.
Yeah, it's amazing that a game of this caliber and this much attention basically means nothing other than potential playoff seeding a couple of weeks from now.
And standing room only as well.
Yeah, just an incredible crowd for both sides. What a great atmosphere here at West A for this one. Coaster in the shotgun. Screen to the left. Big opening here, and the West A receiver is going to take this one to the house. Catching the screen is Terrence Stevens. No, check that. That is Danny Guilfoyle, and Guilfoyle takes it all the way for a West Allegheny touchdown, covering 68 yards.
Yeah, and that was a nice play by West A, set up very well by the running backs and the quarterback. Just a slip screen underneath to the wide receiver, and once he found daylight, he saw the end zone and wasn't stopping until he got there.
And that is another touchdown for Guilfoyle. We talked about that earlier in the football game, how Guilfoyle and Orsini have combined for 7, now 8 touchdowns on the season for West Allegheny. So on to attempt the PAT for West A is DJ Obstanek, who already has a field goal on the evening. And a flag comes in prior to the snap. I think there may have been a false start by, no, it's going to be offsides against Woodland Hills. And another pre-snap penalty against the Wolverines. So Danny Guilfoyle today has 1 reception for -3 yards. And then his next reception goes for 68 yards and a touchdown. I misspoke there. That was the first reception for Guilfoyle. That -3 yard reception was for Armand Delavade. And the PAT is up, and that PAT is good for West Allegheny. And with 9:01 to play in the second quarter, West Allegheny has taken the lead back by 3 points, 10-7. You're tuned into the Wolverines and the Indians all across the Woodland Hills Football Network. Ten to 7, West Allegheny now leads Woodland Hills. The Indians scoring on a 68-yard touchdown pass from Andrew Coaster to Danny Guilfoyle. And Fred, you broke it down pretty precisely. It was a simple slip screen to the left, a lot of blockers out in front of Guilfoyle, and he had just one Wolverine to beat. And once he got the step on Jihad Brown, he was off to the races, and Guilfoyle would not be stopped.
Yeah, and West A actually had offensive linemen down the field on this slip screen, so it was a perfectly timed play by West A to pull that out.
Back deep to return for Woodland Hills. All by himself is Art Tompkins. Or no, that is Stephon Hawthorne, who's all by himself back deep. Miles Sanders and Art Tompkins have moved up to the second line. But it doesn't matter, as a booming kick carries into the end zone for DJ Obstanek again, and Woodland Hills will be 80 yards away from taking the lead back.
Yeah, and right now Woodland Hills really needs to get that last drive out of their system and out of their memory and just focus on this one. we know they have big play potential. They know they have big play potential, but if they're not going to get the big play, they need to take what they're given, get some first downs, and just matriculate down the field.
And that's what Woodland Hills did in their first drive, Fred. You know, they got the ball with 6:11 to play at their own 20-yard line. And over the next 2.5 minutes, they slowly moved the ball down the field, mostly on the back of Joel Shaw before he scored on the 27-yarder. Pistol formation with Shaw behind Jones. Twins right, and one receiver to the near side left. And big Danny Gibson just came out of his stance early. He was so ready to pull on that play. And another pre-snap penalty against the Wolverine offense.
That's got to be the third or fourth one already today.
So that'll back the Wolverines up to the 15-yard line. It'll be 1st and 15 for the Wolverines at their own 15. Pistol again. Twins left. Handoff. Joel Shaw. No, Jones is going to keep it running to the right. He'll take it across the 20, the 25, the 30. Still on his feet to the 40-yard line as he's forced out of bounds. They're going to say he steps on the far boundary. Where? At the 33-yard line. It's a first down for the Wolverines. A pickup of 18 for Jeremiah Jones.
And that was a perfectly timed pull out of the belly play for Woodland Hills. Jeremiah Jones did a great job of just reading the defensive end, put the ball in the belly of Joel Shaw, who's done a great job so far, and then took it around right end for a first down.
Jeremiah Jones was sacked for a loss of 17 on the first drive, had one carry for -1 yards in drive number 2, and he makes it all up with that 18-yard gain there. And it's 1st and 10 for the Wolverines at their own 33. Pistol again. Jones this time hands it off to Miles Sanders. Coming to the near side left. He's retreating, trying to cut it to the right. Now he'll dance around an Indian. Miles Sanders still on his feet to the far boundary, and he'll step out of bounds right around the 25-yard line. It'll be a loss of about 10 yards on that play. Miles Sanders tried to make chicken salad out of you-know-what, but it's to no avail. Still a loss of 10 for the Wolverines.
And again, Woodland Hills really needs to take what they're given on these plays and stop trying to make things happen that just aren't there right now.
And a lot of that has to do with the fact that over the past couple of weeks, Fred, the Wolverines have not faced competition even remotely as good as West Allegheny is. And when you're accustomed to breaking big play after big play after big play, you think you can do it against anybody.
Yeah, these guys have been short tacklers all day for West Allegheny.
Handoff will go up the middle. And the ball carrier is Miles Sanders, and Sanders is brought down as he crosses the 25 to the 27-yard line. And a pickup on that play of 3 yards. And Miles Sanders back into positive territory in the running game. He has 5 carries for 2 yards today. Certainly not Miles Sanders-esque. Coach Novak takes a timeout. We will too. 8:12 to play in the second quarter. It is West Allegheny 10 and Woodland Hills 7. You're tuned into the Wolverines and the Indians all across the Woodland Hills Football Network. And we welcome you back to West Allegheny High School in Imperial, Pennsylvania. Adam Gusky, Fred Guy on the call for you as the West Allegheny Indians lead the Woodland Hills Wolverines 10-7. West Allegheny scoring on a 24-yard field goal, or 34-yard field goal rather, on their first drive. And then on their first drive of quarter number 2, a 68-yard touchdown pass from Andrew Coaster to Danny Guilfoyle. Woodland Hills scoring on a 27-yard run in the first quarter by Joel Shaw, shoeless Joel. Trips to the left of the formation, one receiver to the far side right, and 3 Wolverines moved prior to the snap, Fred.
And that was a first, and that was actually after a timeout as well, so they should have been all on the same page when they got to the line of scrimmage.
So a false start against the Wolverines is going to cost them 5 yards, so instead of 3rd down and 27, or rather 3rd down and 15 at the 27, it'll be 3rd down and about 20, maybe 21 with the ball at the 23-yard line. The line to gain is the 43, so it's 3rd and 20. Trips to the left of the formation. Jeremiah Jones Looks left the whole way, has time. He'll throw it down the field for Stephon Hawthorne, and it's a little far for Hawthorne, and the punt unit will come on.
These wide receivers for Woodland Hills, when they see that Jeremiah Jones starts to scramble, they stop running their routes. If they would have, if Hawthorne would have continued on his route, that ball would have been right in his breadbasket.
Yeah, you have two choices: either break off your route, come back to the football, or continue running. And Hawthorne did neither of those. And the incomplete pass brings Jake Rushbridge back onto the field. Rushbridge had a 53-yarder the last time. This time he'll punt it away, standing from his own 10. This one not as good. It will take a West A bounce, now a Woodland Hills bounce, as a lot of English on the ball for the Australian punter. And the ball will finally roll dead inside of West A territory at the 47-yard line. Still not a bad punt, covering about 30 yards net.
And you can tell that West A is starting to get a little bit more pressure on Jake Rushbridge on that last punt. It barely got it away.
So West Allegheny has the football at the Woodland Hills 47-yard line. With 7:50 to play here in quarter number two rather. I formation, motion man from left to right. Coaster's going to hand off to the tailback, and that tailback breaks away from the first Woodland Hills tackler, and then will be brought down after a gain of about 2 by DeMond Johnson. The ball carrier is Armand Delavade. And a pickup of 1 brings up 2nd down and 9.
And that was just a really good job of Woodland Hills gang tackling. With the running back getting away from the initial contact, after that he saw 3 or 4 more Wolverines that he just couldn't get around.
2nd down and 9 for the Wolverines. With the football, or rather for the Indians, with the football at the 48-yard line. Play action, Coaster rolling right, finds a receiver in the flats. On the reception is Sean Orsini, and Orsini will be brought down inside of Woodland Hills territory at the 41-yard line. The Indians needed 9, they got 12.
Way too many missed tackles on that play. Woodland Hills has done a great job, especially in the cornerback position, of being so being able to make short tackles in the open field. That time, Orsini was just able to leap over Art Tompkins and pick up the 1st down.
Second catch of the game for Orsini. He now has 17 yards on those 2 receptions. Coaster in the air now with 87 yards. Coaster, I backfield behind him, offset I actually. 1 receiver to either side, tight end to the left. Delay handoff to Stevens, who was met initially in the backfield by Bowden, and then will be brought down by William Fletcher. No gain on the play, brings up 2nd down and 10.
Yeah, looked like it might have been a draw or, that Coaster was setting up for the fake, but Will Fletcher was not fooled by that one bit and just came off of his defensive end position to make the tackle.
Clock rolling down towards 6 minutes to go here in the second quarter. Woodland Hills down by 3. West Allegheny with the football at the Woodland Hills 41-yard line, 2nd down and 10. Power pistol. Stevens will now motion out of the formation. Dump off over the middle, complete to Orsini, and Orsini is brought down close to 1st down yardage. It'll depend on the spot. Let's see what the officials say here. They're going to say it's 3rd and short. A pickup of 9 brings up 3rd and 1.
And a lot of this West A offense really reminds me a lot of the Woodland Hills offense maybe 20 years ago, where they would run a I formation, put the tight end into the routes, and make sure that they were very active. That just looked like an old 95 pop pass that Woodland Hills used to run.
High backfield behind Coaster, he'll motion. Orsini from right to left, hand off to Stevens. He'll cross the line of scrimmage. Now he's into open field, and a nice open field tackle preventing a touchdown. On the tackle for the Wolverines is Malik Flowers, but it's still a 1st down for West Allegheny. And right now, Fred, this Woodland Hills defense is on their heels.
Yeah, this is very uncharacteristic of a Woodland Hills defense, especially this year with a team that's been able to just run right up the middle against them.
This Parkway Conference is no slouch in AAA. Central Valley really beat up on Penn Hills a couple of weeks ago. And right now, West Allegheny giving the Wolverines all they can handle. Handoff will go to Stevens. He'll dance towards the hole that closes up very quickly. And a nice tackle by Daniel Gibson. Keeps it at a very short gain, maybe a half yard inside of the 21.
And that's what Woodland Hills needs to do right now, is just make sure they're making solid short tackles, not giving these West A running backs, receivers a chance to make some more yardage after the contact.
Clock winding down towards 4 minutes to play here in the second quarter. Wolverines down by 3. West Allegheny with the ball down near the Woodland Hills 20-yard line. Second down and 9. Shotgun sidecar to the right of Coaster. He'll motion a receiver, yo-yoing from left to right. Back to the left. And the pass will be dumped off to that motion man. Nice open field tackle. Tyler Scanlon was the receiver. On the tackle is Jihad Brown. And Brown saves the first down, but it's still third and very manageable for the West Allegheny Indians. A pickup of 7 on that play.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Jihad Brown picked him up late. I mean, it looked like he was coming. They were in man-to-man coverage. He did the yo-yo motion like you mentioned, but it just looked like Jihad Brown was just late picking him up out of the backfield.
So again, third down and 2, the ball at the 13-yard line. The line to gain is the Woodland Hills 11. West Allegheny out of the huddle. Offset I backfield. A wing to the left, now motions from left to right. Handoff goes to Stevens. He'll push his way forward for a West Allegheny first down as he carries it inside of the 11 to the 10-yard line. Dan Gibson on the tackle for the Wolverines.
And right now it looks like Woodland Hills is bringing in their goal line defense. You got Will Clark and Yamon Baldwin Youngblood coming into the game.
So a 2-yard pickup there for West Allegheny. Maybe 3-yard pickup actually. And Stevens now has 32 yards on the ground. So it's first and goal for West Allegheny with the ball at the Woodland Hills 10. This drive for the Indians started their own 47-yard line. Coaster will hand off to Stevens, carrying it over left tackle. He's met right around the line of scrimmage. Maybe he'll pick up a pickup of 1 there. Tackle on the play by Laquan Bowden.
And immediately Will Clark and Yamon Baldwin Youngblood are making an impact, especially on that play, because they just got really nice penetration from their defensive lineman position, which kept the linebackers free from any blockers and were able to make the tackle.
Just under 2 minutes of play here in the second quarter. Second and goal for West Allegheny. Ball at the Woodland Hills 9. High backfield behind Coaster. He'll run off of play action to his right. Dumping it off to the fullback in the flat and into the end zone goes that fullback. That is Jake Cunningham, I believe, for the West ATD. No, the reception is by Armand Delavade. And West Allegheny leads Woodland Hills by 9, and it will be 10 momentarily. Woodland Hills definitely bit on the play action, and that allowed Delavade to slip open on the right flat, and Coaster found him for the touchdown. And the snap is true, the hold is down, the kick is up, and that PAT is good. And with 1:47 to play in the second quarter, it's West Allegheny 17 and Woodland Hills 7. You're tuned into the Wolverines and the Indians all across the Woodland Hills Football Network. A 9-yard touchdown pass from Andrew Coaster to Armand Delavade puts West Allegheny on top of Woodland Hills 17-7. Wolverines definitely bit on that play action, and that allowed Delavade to find himself open and bring the ball across the goal line along the near boundary.
Yeah, it just really looked like nobody accounted for Delavade as he came out of the backfield and was wide open in the flats. Coaster put a nice pass to him, and he went for the touchdown.
So again, the score is 17-7, West Allegheny leading Woodland Hills. 1 minute and 47 seconds to go in the second quarter. We have to remember West A will get the football to begin the second half, so Woodland Hills probably wants to get a score on the board here, even though there's less than 2 minutes to play in half number 1. We know the Wolverines can strike quickly, but the Wolverines have had just one successful drive thus far today. A bouncing kickoff will bounce into the hands of Stephon Hawthorne, and he stumbles down just shy of the 35-yard line. And that's where Woodland Hills will start, first down and 10. And I think Hawthorne was surprised he had the football in his hands there. And he had some room to run, but unfortunately, as I mentioned, stumbled to the carpet.
Yeah, I mean, that was a nice kick by the West A kicker, because he just squibbed it, and it took a really nice hop for West A, which gave him an opportunity to get down there, but Hawthorne wasn't ready for the ball.
By far the best starting field position of the game for Woodland Hills, other than of the football game, I should say. Ball carrier Art Tompkins, as he runs to the right, he is undercut. Nice open field tackle by Chase Dillon, and a loss on that play of about 2 yards brings up second down and 12.
And that was really a nice read by Dillon. I mean, an even better tackle, but it's certainly a nice read of seeing the slip screen trying to develop, but no luck for Woodland Hills.
And Woodland Hills will clock the football on second down and 12, and that'll bring up third down and 12 now. I don't understand that decision, Fred.
Yeah, I thought that. Yeah, why put yourself in a really bad? I mean, a really bad situation.
And now a stoppage. They will ask the scoreboard and sticks to reflect that it is now third down. And a flag before the snap. And I think it's against Woodland Hills again, Fred.
Another false start penalty.
Pre-snap penalties are killing Woodland Hills. Last week, it was the defense. They had 4 encroachment penalties. This week, Woodland Hills offense has committed 3 false starts, and the defense has at least 1 encroachment. They also had an offsides on special teams.
Yeah, and you can get away with that with certain teams, but you certainly can't do that against a stout West Allegheny team.
So now it is third down and 17 for Woodland Hills with the ball at their own 27-yard line. The Wolverines are down by 10. Shotgun formation. Jeremiah Jones, straight drop back. He had room to run if he'd have stepped forward. Instead, he's going to run to his right. Across the 30, the 35, the 40, and he will slide out of bounds along that far boundary at the 40-yard line, and that is about 5, maybe 4 yards shy of the first down marker.
Yeah, I don't understand why he just didn't take off to his left side. I mean, it was wide open. The receivers did a great job of running off their defenders, and Jeremiah Jones decided to go to the right instead of the left.
Yeah, Joel Shaw had a nice clear out, allowing Jones, if he would have run to the left, to find some room, but instead Jones had to go the hard way to pick up those 13 yards. And still the punt unit is on. Jake Rushbridge, no, it's a fake. Miles Sanders has it. Miles Sanders, a Woodland Hills first down.
And that's going to be kind of tough because I'm looking at the official on the other side come across, and he looked like he was short of the first down.
The flag on this side is set at the 44-yard line, and it's a Woodland Hills first down.
I got a little nervous from the side judge on the other side.
Well, what happened, Fred, was that the flag on the far sideline was at the 45. The chains on the near sideline had the first down at the 44-yard line. So now it is actually the line to gain at the West Allegheny 45. Nice pickup there, incidentally, by Miles Sanders on the fake punt. Jeremiah Jones running to his left. Now he'll step forward, sucking the football, running to his right now. We've seen this before. Jones throws, has a receiver open. It's Miles Sanders. He's still on his feet, dancing through West A Indians inside of the 20 at the 19-yard line.
Well, they really need to get up and get to the ball right now before it gets set, so no more time comes off the clock.
36-yard pickup on that pass play to Miles Sanders.
A really good job with the offensive lineman and staying behind the line of scrimmage as well.
And as soon as it's chopped in, Jeremiah Jones will clock the football. The incomplete pass takes only about a half second off the clock. And Woodland Hills will have the ball 2nd down and 10 at the West A 19-yard line. And Fred, there's something special about Jeremiah Jones late in quarter number 2.
He does have a good grasp with a 2-minute offense, but it was a great job of Miles Sanders of just finding a soft spot in the West Allegheny defensive zone. And good heads-up play of Jeremiah Jones of hitting him, not in stride, but he, once Sanders gets his hands on the ball, anything could happen.
2nd and 10, ball at the West A 19. A timeout is called by West Allegheny. Again, 24 seconds to play here in quarter number 2. Woodland Hills on top, 10-7. We'll take a break. You're tuned into the Wolverines and the West Allegheny Indians all across the Woodland Hills Football Network. Second down and 10 for Woodland Hills. The football at the West Allegheny 19-yard line. Jeremiah Jones in the shotgun, pressured. He'll step up, jump pass through the hands of Art Tompkins. And the incomplete pass brings up 3rd down and 10.
That was a little exciting, Adam. I thought Jeremiah Jones was just going to tuck it and run, but he saw Art Tompkins one-on-one with his defender and just stopped, jumped it before the line of scrimmage, and unfortunately Art Tompkins wasn't able to come down with the pass.
Not often you see the jump pass, and more importantly, not often you see the jump pass hit the receiver like that one did. And kind of fortunate for Woodland Hills that Tompkins didn't hold on, because the clock is now stopped with just under 19 seconds to play. 3rd and 10 for the Wolverines, the ball at the West Allegheny 19-yard line. 10-point lead for West Allegheny. Jeremiah Jones rolls to his left. He's pressured. He'll throw, and the pass intended for Stephon Hawthorne is incomplete. It was in between Tompkins and Hawthorne, and the incomplete pass brings up 4th down and 10.
And it looks like Woodland Hills is going to keep their offense on the field for this 4th down play. I thought they might try to bring in Leon for the field goal to try to put some points on the board going into halftime.
That would be a 37-yard field goal. That's right on the cusp of his range from what we've seen. He made a 30-yarder that would have been good from about 40 earlier in the season. A couple of weeks back, actually.
And we also need to remember that the Woodland Hills Wolverines can still pick up the 1st down and get out of bounds to stop the clock.
4th and 10, the ball at the West Allegheny 19-yard line. And whistles blow. I think Woodland Hills is going to use a timeout here. Coach Novak didn't like what he saw with his offense and the West Allegheny defense. We'll keep it here, though. 12.3 seconds to play here in the 2nd quarter. Woodland Hills with the 10-point lead over the West Allegheny Indians, Fred. And this is a very important drive because Woodland Hills gives the ball to West Allegheny to begin the 2nd half. So the Wolverines need to get some points here to end the 1st half, trailing right now by 10.
Yeah, you certainly don't want to give West Allegheny, especially the way their offense has been clicking right now, a 10-point lead and give them the ball going into the 3rd quarter. It's just going to be a it's going to be a tough situation for Woodland Hills to get themselves out of, but it starts right now with this drive.
And so far we have seen that usual late 2nd quarter magic from Jeremiah Jones. He had that beautiful 36-yard pass where he ran left, ran back right, and then found Miles Sanders.
Well, if he's going to sprinkle a little bit of magic on this offense, right now is definitely the time to do it.
So it's 4th and 10 for Woodland Hills. The ball at the West Allegheny 19-yard line. Woodland Hills, as Fred mentioned, can get a 1st down. The line to gain is the 9. And the Indians will send everyone back, and now the Indians will take a timeout. It's amazing, Fred. We've talked about it almost ad nauseum through this 1st half. This game means nothing and simultaneously means just about everything.
Well, Adam, if you look across this crowd and you tell them that they don't mean that this game doesn't mean anything, they'll tell you to go, blow your nose. But I mean, this has been such a fun atmosphere for this game. A very intense game, actually, for it being quote-unquote a meaning nothing game.
Absolutely. This is not just non-conference. This is Quad A versus Triple A. You are representing your entire level of football in this football game, both Woodland Hills and West Allegheny. We've talked about how great the Parkway Conference is. Obviously, the Southeastern Conference is a great one as well.
Well, if I recall correctly, I believe the Southeastern Conference is 5-1 so far against the Parkway Conference.
Twins to either side. Jeremiah Jones calls out signals on 4th down and 10. Jones running to his right. Pumps. Runs some more. Now's going to throw across his body. He has Jamon Dunn. Jamon Dunn is knocked down by Joel Shaw at the 5-yard line.
Now, Adam, I can't tell if that's 15 seconds or 1.5 seconds, but they need to hurry up and run an actual play and not clock it.
Well, Woodland Hills did have one timeout left in their arsenal. That's the good news. The bad news is Joel Shaw was so excited to get in front of Jamon Dunn to block him, he knocked Jamon Dunn down.
And you just heard a collective moan come over this Woodland Hills crowd because it looked like Dunn was on his way into the end zone. And it was a great job of Jeremiah Jones of still finding an open receiver after scrambling around, and a great job of Woodland Hills offensive line staying behind the line of scrimmage.
And again, it was Jones running right, throwing back left. And folks on the TV side, you can see it.
It looked like there might have been a penalty on the play.
Oh, okay. Well, the penalty against West Allegheny is going to push the ball instead of from the 5 down to the 2.5. Well, that's the good news. Now there will be the timeout called by Woodland Hills, but we're still going to keep it here because this is just so very exciting. And, you know, we've talked about it this whole season long, Fred. The late second quarter heroics by Jeremiah Jones are starting to become very well documented.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, he has a good grasp with the 2-minute offense, which is a far cry from, what we've seen in previous quarterbacks for Woodland Hills, but he just does everything you need him to do with under 2 minutes to go, and certainly puts points on the board at the end of that drive.
That he does. Again, let's set the scene for you. There's a 2.5 seconds to play here in quarter number 2. Woodland Hills has the football, first down and goal at the West Allegheny 2.5-yard line. Wolverines need to score here as they trail West Allegheny by 10 points. Let's take it back down to the field. Wolverine fans on the near side on their feet. Shotgun formation, twins to either side. Hand off to Joel Shaw. He will spin, he will drive, and he will be stopped shy of the goal line. Oh no, Woodland Hills comes up short, and the Wolverines will head into the locker room, trailing the West Allegheny Indians by 10 points.
And that's certainly the momentum break that Woodland Hills would have needed if they got to the end zone, but a good job of West Allegheny of doing an excellent job of gang tackling Joel Shaw. They found out in the first quarter that you really have to put multiple hats on Joel Shaw if you're going to get him to the ground.
And that is very, very hurtful if you're the Woodland Hills team. You get so much emotion. You get so much from driving that ball all the way down to the 2.5-yard line in the 2-minute drill, but the Wolverines still came up empty.
Yeah, and right now, what Woodland Hills really needs to take away from the fact that they can move the ball on West Allegheny. We've seen it in the first half. We've seen it on their second drive. We've seen it on this last drive. But we really need they need to get themselves, focused, get it together for the second half, and then see what they can do.
Again, your halftime score 17-7. Woodland Hills trailing the West Allegheny Indians. Folks on the television side, when we return, it'll be the second half on the radio side. Stay tuned for the Woodland Hills Football Network halftime show. Again, your halftime score 17-7. West Allegheny leads Woodland Hills. You're tuned into the Wolverines and the Indians all across the Woodland Hills Football Network. And we welcome you back to West Allegheny High School in Imperial, Pennsylvania. Adam Gusky and Fred Guy on the call for you as the Woodland Hills Wolverines trail the West Allegheny Indians 17-7. And Fred, in the first half, we saw that the Woodland Hills defense can stop West Allegheny at any time. We saw that the Woodland Hills offense can move the ball on West Allegheny at any time. The problem is they haven't done it efficiently enough. While West Allegheny has not only stopped the Wolverines efficiently for the most part, they've also moved the ball efficiently against the Wolverines.
Yeah, West A has definitely executing the game plan that they came in to this week with, because they're just doing a good job of just mixing in pass and run. They're not real consistent on either one. They've really been dictating the tempo of this game so far.
Folks on the radio side have already heard some of the halftime stats, but folks on the TV side, some of these that you might find interesting. Woodland Hills has put together 77 yards rushing, but it hasn't come from Miles Sanders as it has over the past couple of weeks. Today it's Joel Shaw. Shaw has 6 carries for 57 yards and a touchdown today, while Miles Sanders has 6 carries for just 7 yards. 5 of those came on a fake punt.
Yeah, West A again has done a great job of stymieing Miles Sanders, because what's typically he's so used to seeing is getting hit once and people bouncing off. Well, this West A team's not going to do that. They're going to hit, they're going to wrap, and then they're going to get 2 or 3 other their buddies to come in and finish up the play.
Another thing Woodland Hills has seen happen over the entire season is terrific play out of Jeremiah Jones in the final stages of quarter number 2. Fred, how can Woodland Hills bottle that and have Jeremiah Jones play like that throughout a football game? Other than at Cannon Mac, he's really only shined in latter stages of the second quarter.
I mean, if they mix in a little no-huddle offense, if they have that in their arsenal, that would be a good idea, because it seems like he plays a little bit better under pressure. No-huddle offense, you're just calling plays from the line and trying to get some positive yardage.
Talk about the Woodland Hills defense. At times they have really shown up and played very well. They shut down the first drive that West Allegheny had after West Allegheny drove the ball down inside of the Woodland Hills red zone. They shut down the Indians and forced them to kick a field goal. But as the first half rolled on, West Allegheny really was able to move the ball against that Woodland Hills defense, especially on the final 2 drives.
Yeah, and the one thing that really right now Woodland Hills needs to do is just make adjustments, in-game adjustments, halftime adjustments. They really need to figure out this offense of West A and make some stops, especially on the first drive of the second half.
Take a look at the standings in the Southeastern Conference. Woodland Hills on top with a conference record of 5-0. They're 6-0 on the year. Penn Hills just behind the Wolverines. They're also 5-0, but 5-1 on the season with that loss against Central Valley. Mount Lebanon, their lone loss coming in conference to Penn Hills. They're 4-1 in the SEC. Bethel Park 2-2 in the Southeastern Conference. Upper St. Clair 2-3. Peters Township has 1 win on the year. They're 1-4. And Baldwin and Cannon Mac are both winless. And now let's take a look at the WPIAL Quad A rankings. Woodland Hills atop the MSA Sports Poll with a record of 6-0. Central Catholic number 2 at 6-0. Penn Trafford out of the Foothills Conference is 6-0. Pine Richland in Central Catholic Conference out of the Northern 8 is 6-0 as well. They're number 4. McKeesport is 5th with a record of 5-1. Penn Hill 6th with a record of 5-1. Mount Lebanon also 5-1. They're 7th. North Allegheny, they are 8th. North Hills out of the Northern 8 is 4-2, and they are 9th. And Plum, how about the Plum Mustangs moving out of the Southeastern Conference into the Foothills Conference? They're 4-2 and number 10 in the MSA Sports Poll.
And the coach, Plum's coach, is slipping my mind at the top right now, and he's just done a great job of changing the atmosphere for Plum football, which is certainly what they needed.
Folks, on the television side, you see us going through some of our sponsors for tonight's game, and we have a big thank you not only to LG3 Entertainment, but Larry George Jr. He bailed us out and helped get us a couple of cameras down to the Wolverina that we didn't have in our possession when the production truck was loaded and on the way to West Allegheny. So he really helped us out with that, and we give him a big thanks. Getting set for quarter number 2, it is Woodland Hills trailing West Allegheny 17-7. The Wolverines will kick off to begin the second half, and it will be John Leone from the left hash. 2 return men back for West Allegheny include Terrence Stevens. And we are back underway here at West A. A bouncing kickoff will carry into the hands of Stevens as he will run to the right, has a crease in front of him, bouncing it to the far boundary, tries to turn the corner, and a Woodland Hills special teamer makes the tackle. And it appears to be Stephon Hawthorne who makes that tackle for the Wolverines. It'll be first down and 10 for West A with the ball at their own 26-yard line.
And a good job of Hawthorne of making that tackle, because Stevens had a full head of steam and got through the first wave of Woodland Hills defenders on the kickoff team.
So West Allegheny scoring on their last 2 drives of the second quarter. And here they come to begin the third quarter. 2 receivers to the left, high backfield behind the quarterback, Andrew Coaster. And the handoff will go to the tailback, and that tailback runs to the right. The ball carrier, Armin Delavade, who has a touchdown today, carries that football for a pickup of about 10, maybe 11 yards, and that should be enough for the first down. They'll actually say he's down at the 40-yard line, so it's a pickup of 13 for Delavade.
And Delavade's not their typical tailback. Definitely did a great job of running the ball, but certainly he picked up some nice blocking from number 99, Avery Rose, a 6'1", 255-pound fullback.
Wow, get the nose guard out there Play called in from the sideline as Coaster steps under center. High backfield behind him, two receivers to the left. Delevade again, the tailback. Armin Delevade will take the handoff. He'll drive his way forward. And a pickup of a couple. 2nd down and 8.
And right now, West A is not really doing anything fancy. They're going right after the teeth of this Woodland Hills defense that has done a great job against the run, and basically just trying to push them around and see if they can stop them.
2nd and 8 with 10:50 to play here in quarter number 3. Woodland Hills down by 10. West Allegheny with the ball first in the second half. West Allegheny with the muddle huddle and comes to the line of scrimmage. 2 receivers left. Instead, he'll pitch to Stevens heading to the right. And Stevens is brought down as he crosses the 45. And they'll say he's down at around the 47-yard line. The line to gain is the 50, and that brings up 3rd down and 3. Now they'll move the ball all the way up to the 48, or near the 48. Still 3rd and 3.
And this is a really big play for Woodland Hills, because if they can stop West A and force them into a punt situation, it's going to put some momentum on their sideline.
Offset I backfield behind Coaster. 2 receivers to the near side left. And a false start as the slot back on the near side, Tyler Amadori, moves early. And that is the first pre-snap penalty against the West A offense.
Which goes from a 3rd and 2 to a 3rd and 7.
That certainly hurts, especially as West A again was moving the ball on this drive. .9:42 as the clock continues to roll here in quarter number 3. Beautiful evening at West A, about as nice as you can ask for October 10th. Trips to the left of the formation. West Allegheny had 12 players in the huddle. No flag flies, I guess because they had the muddle huddle. Coaster, straight drop back, going to run the screen. Screen to the right, and it's Delevade into open field. Still on his feet as he steps around Nash. Inside of the 30, and he'll be brought down right around the 28-yard line. A big pickup for Armin Delevade. Again, the screen kills the Wolverines.
Yeah, and that was a little misdirected as well, because it looked like Coaster was looking to his left when he initially started the play, but then came back to his right, found Delevade, and Delevade did a great job in the open field of making people miss and picking up the 1st down for West Allegheny.
29-yard pass to Armin Delevade. And Coaster now is 8 of 11 for 134 yards and 2 touchdowns. And Delevade has 3 receptions for 35 yards and a TD. High backfield behind Coaster. Receivers split to either side. The motion man is Amadori. Handoff will go to Stevens, and Stevens is met at the line of scrimmage. The ball squirts loose, but the whistles had blown. And it will be just a gain of 1 on the play. No fumble, and it's 2nd down and 9.
And that's really what Woodland Hills needs right now, is a turnover or, you know, a couple of 15-yard penalties by West A to get, West A out of field goal range for sure.
So again, it's 2nd down and about 9 for West Allegheny. The ball sitting at the Woodland Hills 26-yard line. High backfield behind Coaster. Motion man from left to right. Coaster off of play action. Dumps it off. It's intercepted. Here comes a Wolverine down the near boundary with the football. It is Malik Flowers. Flowers cutting it back inside of the 30, the 25, the 20, the 15, the 10, the 5. Dives. Goal line. End zone. Pick 6, Malik Flowers.
Very, very great play by Malik Flowers. A horrible pass by Coaster, because he really didn't see the fact that he had his wide receiver wide open in the end zone. Decided to dump it off short, but Malik Flowers was sitting there waiting for it.
Yeah, he broke on the ball beautifully and brought it down the near sideline. Picked up some blockers as the convoy developed in front of him. And how about Malik Flowers with the open field running, cutting it back to the inside for the pick 6. And that certainly changes things here at West A. The PAT by John Leone is wide left. And with 7:41 to play here in quarter number 3, it is West Allegheny 17 and Woodland Hills 13. You're tuned into the Wolverines and the Indians all across the Woodland Hills Football Network. An 85-yard interception return for a touchdown for Malik Flowers makes it a 4-point game here at West Allegheny as the Woodland Hills Wolverines trail the West Allegheny Indians 17-13. And Fred, you said that the quarterback Coaster had a receiver open in the end zone, but West A had been so successful with the screen pass. I think Coaster was so dead set on the screen pass, and that is exactly what happened as he threw the ball into the flat on the near side. The pass intended for Orsini, and the pick 6 by Malik Flowers.
And the pick 6, Malik Flowers made that look really easy. I mean, his long strides down the sideline made a cut around the 35-yard line, and then once he saw the red of the West Allegheny end zone, there was no stopping him after that.
Yeah, it was Orsini who tried to bring him down, but he dove towards the goal line into the end zone for the Woodland Hills touchdown. And an end-over-end kick by Leone, and the ball is loose. Do the Wolverines have it? No, it will be recovered by West Allegheny. Malik Flowers nearly came up with a loose football on that kickoff return as it initially bounced away from the West A return man, Tyler Amadori, but it will be West Allegheny football at the 32.
Yeah, Amador is really lucky he got back on that ball because you can ill-advise to give the Woodland Hills Wolverines that much momentum, especially as they're starting to roll.
You can hear the Wolverine fans on the near side. They are inspired as Woodland Hills has cut the lead down to 4 points. West Allegheny with the football at their own 32 with 7:33 to play. And it is Stevens who is met in the backfield. Brought down by a host of Wolverines led by the big fella, Amon Baldwin Youngblood, 6'4", 3 1/4.
And I think you got Will Clark in there as well. These guys who are typically, I believe, the right side of the offensive line for Woodland Hills have done a great job, especially in the middle of the Woodland Hills defense.
Left side, but you're 100% right. Wilford Clark, the left guard. Amon Baldwin Youngblood, the left tackle. Incredible atmosphere here at West Allegheny. The Indians with the football, 2nd down and 13 at their own 29. Coaster in the shotgun, pressured, screen pass, throwing to the left. The pass is complete, and here go the West A Indians, and this will be the second time that West Allegheny will score. No, Art Tompkins is going to try to run him down, but no, it will still be Tyler Amadori on a long touchdown pass, this one of 71 yards.
Again, West A set that play up perfectly. Let the entire defensive line for Woodland Hills pretty much come unscathed and set up a nice pass. And Amadori has tremendous speed. So once you put the ball in his hands in the open field, he's on his way to the end zone.
And once he got away from the first wave of Wolverines, there was really nobody that was going to get him. We saw Art Tompkins turn on the Jets, but it was too late to catch up to Amadori. And just as Woodland Hills sees momentum, the West Allegheny Indians snatch it back. And the PAT is up and squeaks inside of the right upright for DJ Opstanek. And the Woodland Hills Wolverines trail the West Allegheny Indians by 11, 24-13. 6:38 to play in quarter number 3. You're tuned into the Wolverines and the Indians all across the Woodland Hills Football Network. Woodland Hills scores on an 85-yard interception return for a touchdown by Malik Flowers. And West Allegheny on the second play of the ensuing drive strikes back on a 71-yard touchdown pass from Coaster to Amadori. And Fred, those are the things that can really cost you a football game when it feels like all the momentum is on your side. Your crowd is back into it, your bench is back into it, you're flying around defensively on that first play, and then you get sucked in on the screen pass. And for the second time today, a screen pass cost you a long touchdown, and the third touchdown today for West A on a screen.
Yeah, West A's been really lucky, and they've run it to perfection. I mean, can't take anything away from them. They've done a great job of just running the play to perfection and making it work.
End over end kick will be returned by Art Tompkins. He'll bounce it to the near side. Tompkins still bringing it to the near boundary. He will be forced out of bounds and down. A flag comes in as Art Tompkins was well out of bounds and then shoved to the carpet along this near boundary. The drive should be starting at the 42, but thanks to a penalty by West Allegheny, the ball will move into West A territory.
Yeah, and that's the fortunate side for Woodland Hills right now.
That's the third or fourth time today we have seen a special teams penalty go against West Allegheny. .6:29 to go here in quarter number 3. Woodland Hills will have the football inside of West A territory. This is the first time that Woodland Hills drive starts on the West A side of the field.
And you know, Adam, we mentioned that, you know, Jeremiah Jones does well in the 2-minute offense. You're down 11. There's some urgency there. You still have 6:30 left in the third quarter, but you still want to get some points on the board right now.
Hand off to Miles Sanders, bouncing it near side right. He will dance his way around the right end and out of bounds along the near sideline, inside of the 40 at the 38-yard line. It'll be second down and about 6 for West Allegheny, or for Woodland Hills rather. And that ball, is placed at the 39, where it's 2nd and 7 instead of 2nd and 6.
And Woodland Hills really needs to be happy with what West A is giving them right now. I mean, try not to overthink it and try to make too many big plays and just take what they're giving you right now.
Exactly. You don't have to score on the first play of every drive. Jeremiah Jones has time. Running to his left. And laterals the football. Joel Shaw will pick it up. And Joel Shaw will be brought down in the backfield. A big loss on that play, and I don't know what Jones was doing. He had opportunities to run. He had opportunities to throw the football away, but instead tried a lateral pass to Joel Shaw. Fortunately, it bounced into his hands, and he was able to just kind of fall down on the play for a loss of about 7, and that brings up third down and 14.
His biggest opportunity was throwing the ball to Miles Sanders. I don't understand. If you're going to put Miles Sanders in the formation, get him out in the route, throw the kid the ball. We know what he can do. Let him catch the ball, get some yardage, get a first down, and then reset your offense. That's really what he needs to do right now.
Straight drop back for Jeremiah Jones. He's pressured. He'll elude pressure. He'll try to dump it off to Art Tompkins, and the pass is incomplete, and the punt unit will come on.
And right now, if you're Jeremiah Jones, you really can't be frustrated because you're not even taking the first progression. Your first read is to throw that out to either Art Tompkins or Stephon Hawthorne or, whoever's out there that's supposed to get that ball. That should be your first read and nothing else.
And Jeremiah Jones, other than the final drive of the first half, really nowhere near the player we saw a week ago. Nice punt by Jake Rushbridge. Will spiral inside of the West A 10, where it will be downed by Jihad Brown. Jihad Brown touches it initially right around the 10-yard line, actually, and that's where West A will start this drive. Another great punt by Jake Rushbridge.
And he's been doing that all season long. I mean, this is probably the 4th or 5th punt that he's put inside the 10-yard line.
5:10 to play in quarter number 3. Woodland Hills defense needs to make a stop here. The Wolverines need to snatch momentum back. Woodland Hills clearly had momentum on their side after Malik Flowers had that 85-yard pick six. But West A on the second play of the ensuing drive scored on a 71-yard touchdown pass to Tyler Amadori. Handoff will go to Terrence Stevens, and Stevens will drive his way across the 10 to about the 11, a gain of 1 on the play. So Kyra McLean on the tackle, Bo Nilsson in there on the tackle for the Wolverines, and it's second down and about 9 for West Allegheny with the ball at the 11.
That's the one thing that West Allegheny on offense has been able to do. They've been able to keep the defensive ends for Woodland Hills pretty much at bay with the short screens and the short passes. They're not, Coaster's not dropping back and giving these guys some time to make tackles.
Coaster off of play action, dumps it off in the flat. It is complete to Armin Delevade, and Delevade into open field, still on his feet as he runs down that far sideline, eluding Wolverines, and Delevade will finally be brought down from behind at the 29-yard line. Woodland Hills, arm tackle, trying to make the big hit, trying to strip the football. Instead, Armin Delevade takes the ball deep inside of Woodland Hills territory. Another big pass play comes from a short pass.
And again, an unaccounted for man coming out of the backfield has been really the Achilles heel for Woodland Hills in this game.
– 60-yard pass play for the West Allegheny Indians there for Armin Delevade. Handoff will go to Terrence Stevens, who gets to the line of scrimmage and no further. Kevin Solomon, amongst others, in on the tackle for the Wolverines.
And you really got to give a hand to the play. Whoever's calling the plays for West A has done a great job of just keeping Woodland Hills on their, on their heels with mixing pass, run. But their pass plays really haven't been anything to write home about. Nothing really down the field. Everything's within 10 yards. But Woodland Hills just really keeps letting these running backs and wide receivers get open for big plays.
2nd down and 9 for West Allegheny. Motion man from left to right is Amadori. Handoff will go to Stevens. Stevens gets to the line of scrimmage, maybe picks up a yard. Nice open field tackle by Laquan Bowden. Kyra McLean also in on the tackle there for the Wolverines.
Now, right now, if I'm Woodland Hills and I get a free rush at the quarterback from a defensive lineman position, I would stop and make sure I found the closest receiver to me and try to make a tackle as fast as I could.
That's a good plan. Be cognizant of the screen. 3rd down and 7 for West Allegheny. The football at the Woodland Hills 26-yard line. West Allegheny out of the huddle. 2 receivers right, 1 to the short side left. Shotgun. Coaster, sidecar to his right. And Coaster's pressured. He's hit, he's wrapped, he's sacked by Akira McLean. And McLean actually tosses him forward for a gain of about 1. So instead of Coaster being sacked, he is credited with a gain of 1 on the rush.
I'd be interested to see what West A does. It looks like they're bringing out the kicking team to make this a 14-point lead.
And this would be a 42-yard field goal. Now the ball near the center of the field, kind of favoring the left hash. The kicker is DJ Obstanek, who already has a field goal to his credit today of 34 yards. This one will be a 41-yarder.
Woodland Hills really needs to be aware of the fake as well.
Obstanek, he's set. The snap is true. The hold is down. That kick is up, and that kick is good. And that one would have been good from close to 50 yards. 27-13, West Allegheny leads Woodland Hills with 1:35 to play in quarter number 3. You're tuned into the Wolverines and the Indians all across the Woodland Hills Football Network. (27-13), Woodland Hills trailing the West Allegheny Indians. A 41-yard field goal for DJ Obstanek. And Obstanek with that high end-over-end field goal. That probably would have been good from about 50 yards. And Fred, you said before the game you saw him banging 50-yarders.
Oh, he was, as we're looking at the field, he was kicking field goals from the A, which is on the 45-yard line of the field, and just putting them right down the middle.
That's a 55-yard field goal. Now that isn't pregame, but still he made a 41-yarder very easily here in quarter number 3 to put Woodland Hills down by 14 points. Obstanek will have a low lining kick that will slip through the hands of Laquan Bowden. Retreating is Akira McLean, who will fall on the football inside of the 35 at around the 33-yard line. It'll be 1st down and 10 for the Wolverines. 1:33 to play here in quarter number 3.
And really, this is uncharted territory for Woodland Hills. This is the biggest lead they've been down, I believe, all season. And this is really what's going to tell yourselves, especially the team, about themselves and how they can react and handle these situations.
I believe the largest deficit Woodland Hills faced was 11 points at Bethel Park in week number 2.
Something interesting as Miles Sanders looks like he's taking the snaps from center right now.
So Sanders in the shotgun, sidecars to either side. He'll hand off to Joel Shaw. Shaw bouncing left, trying to elude West A Indians, and they will say that Shaw, his forward progress died at the 32-yard line. So a loss of about 2 brings up 2nd down and 12.
And Adam, I'm actually going to say I like that play. I like what Miles Sanders did. He handed off the ball. He didn't fake it and try to run it on that play, possibly setting up a run for himself on this play.
West A has relied on the Wildcat consistently over the past couple of seasons. Not so much this year, especially in this football game. Let's see if Woodland Hills can capitalize on their Wildcat, with Miles Sanders taking the snaps out of the shotgun. Sidecar to his left is Joel Shaw, receivers to either side, and Art Tompkins has to turn around as he was aware of the play clock winding down to 2 seconds, and a timeout by the Wolverines. Will take a break as well. Less than a minute to play in quarter number 3. It's West Allegheny 27 and Woodland Hills 13. You're tuned into the Wolverines and the Indians all across the Woodland Hills Football Network. 41.3 seconds remain in the third quarter. Woodland Hills trailing the West Allegheny Indians 27-13. 2nd and 12 for Woodland Hills with the football at their own 32-yard line. Miles Sanders, the quarterback for the Wolverines. He'll fake the handoff, keep it himself. Trying to elude West A Indians, cutting against the grain. Here comes Miles Sanders into open field. He'll run down the near sideline and step out of bounds as he crosses the 45 to the 47-yard line, and that's the biggest rush of the day for Miles Sanders.
And right now, Woodland Hills needs to understand that it's not too late for them to make a comeback and get themselves back into this ball game. They really just need to just focus on this drive, putting some positive points on the board at the end of this drive, and then going back on defense and putting it to West Allegheny.
You know, Woodland Hills, their lone points here in the second half came off of a 85-yard pick six by Malik Flowers. Sidecars to either side of Miles Sanders. He'll have 2 blockers in front of him. Sanders bursts through a hole inside of West A territory, brought down right around the 48-yard line, and a pickup on that one of 5 yards.
I think that might be the last play of the third quarter.
Now they'll move the ball back to the 49-yard line, where it'll be 2nd down and 6 for Woodland Hills. And Woodland Hills, I think, will head to quarter number 4, trailing the West Allegheny Indians by 14 points, but the Wolverines are driving. Again, through 3 quarters, it is the West Allegheny Indians 27 and the Woodland Hills Wolverines 13. You're tuned in to Woodland Hills and West Allegheny all across the Woodland Hills Football Network. Second down and 6 for Woodland Hills. The ball at the West Allegheny 49-yard line. Miles Sanders, the quarterback for the Wolverines. He'll hand off to Joel Shaw. Shaw spinning away from West Allegheny Indians, driving his way to the flag. It should be enough for a Woodland Hills first down.
2nd, 3rd, 4th effort is what got Joel Shaw the first down. Great job of absorbing initial contact and just people bouncing off him. And he smelled the lead stick and got the first down.
Joel Shaw on the final play of the first half was dragging as many Indians as you could imagine, trying to force his way across the goal line, and came up inches short, where this game could be very different right now. Woodland Hills with the ball 1st and 10 at the West Allegheny 42. End around, no, it's Sanders keeping it, running to the right, cutting inside, now taking it to the far boundary. Miles Sanders still on his feet as he's spun down just shy of the far boundary and just shy of the first down marker. A pickup of about 9 for Miles Sanders.
And you have to applaud the decision of Coach Novak of making Miles Sanders your quarterback now. He's just done a great job with the ball fakes. And, you know, when you get him in open space, he's going to find positive yardage and get first downs and touchdowns.
38 yards now on the ground for Miles Sanders. 5 of those came on a fake punt in half number 1. Less than 11 minutes to play here in the fourth quarter. Woodland Hills needs some points on this drive if they want to make the comeback here against the West A Indians. Hand off to Hassan Ganem. Ganem spinning, then driving his way forward. It appears he has enough for a Woodland Hills first down. And he does.
And good change of pace of using Ghanem. I mean, we've seen Joel Shaw, we've seen Miles Sanders. It's nice to see Ghanem get the ball, especially in short yard situations, because he is a bigger back and that can absorb a lot of hits from the defense.
Son Ghanem scoring his first career touchdown last week in the victory over the Cannon Mac Big Macs.
Now, the only bad thing about having Miles Sanders as your quarterback is you really go to one dimension because we don't know Miles Sanders as much of a thrower.
And Woodland Hills was setting up the end around to Art Tompkins. A flag came in, and I think it's a false start against the Wolverines. It appeared that Art Tompkins had taken a step early, and the false start against Woodland Hills will cost them 5 yards, and instead of 1st and 10 at the West A 31, it'll be 1st and 15 at the 36.
And that's not to say that we haven't seen Miles Sanders throw the ball. That's not to say that he can't. We just haven't seen it in live action.
Obviously, I was not at the WPIAL championship game last season. Did he throw the ball at all?
He didn't throw the ball at all.
Of course, the wind was such a factor in that WPIAL championship game where Woodland Hills lost to Central Catholic. Wolverines out of the huddle, facing a 1st and 15 at the West A 36-yard line. Sidecars to either side of Miles Sanders, 2 receivers to the left. Sanders, he's going to throw as he rolls to his left. He's going to throw it down the field. It's a beautiful spiral, arcing, and it will be incomplete, and a flag comes in as Stephon Hawthorne appeared to be interfered with by one of the West A Indians in the back of the end zone.
And I think one of the West A Indians actually fell on Stephon Hawthorne.
And it will be, in all likelihood, pass interference against West Allegheny. And it is. And an automatic first down. Bob Palco isn't happy. Let's take a look at the television replay. I mean, there was contact as that ball was coming down, but how about the arm on Miles Sanders, Freddie?
Very impressive, especially rolling to his left, having to stop and set his feet, but made a nice throw. You know, fortunately for Woodland Hills, they were credited with the pass interference, and it looks like there was a bump on the replay.
Yeah, there was. It was Christian Stout who put the forearm into Stephon Hawthorne, knocking him down. And after the penalty, it's 1st and 10 for Woodland Hills. Ball at the West Allegheny 21-yard line. 9:44 to play here in the 4th quarter. Woodland Hills with an opportunity here to cut it down to a 1-score game. West A shows blitz. Miles Sanders running left. Has a hole as he cuts back to the right. A flag comes in, and it was headed towards Amon Baldwin Youngblood, and I think he is going to be guilty of some sort of infraction. Now, unfortunately, we are not in the press box here at West Allegheny. We are across from the press box on the Woodland Hills side. There is a camera platform, and because of the size of the West Allegheny press box, we were forced onto this camera platform, so we are not able to see the calls from the front of the official, but we were able to pick that up, that was a flag and a hold against the Wolverines. And it's 10 yards from the spot, which pushes the ball back to the 31-yard line. The line to gain is the 10-yard line, so it is 3rd and 21. Miles Sanders will hand off on the end around to Art Tompkins, and Art Tompkins carries the ball inside of the 30 to the 29-yard line, a pickup of 2 for Art Tompkins, his first carry of the game.
And Woodland Hills got really lucky on that last play because it looked like Dan Gibson had a hold of a West Allegheny defender's jersey, but the referees didn't see it.
9 minutes to play on a rolling clock here in the 4th quarter. Woodland Hills trailing West Allegheny by 14 points. 2 receivers right, 1 to the near side left. Miles Sanders runs to his right. He's going to throw, and he throws it, and it is completed to Havon Price along that far boundary, close to the first down stick.
And I thought Havon Price did a great job of finding that yardstick across the way and getting himself out of bounds just beyond it.
And it will be 3rd down and about 1 for Woodland Hills, an 18-yard pickup on that pass play from Miles Sanders to Havon Price.
And I believe that's his first pass completion of his career.
I believe you are correct. So 3rd and 1 for the Wolverines. The ball at the West Allegheny 12-yard line. Clock is stopped with 8:41 to play in regulation. Shotgun formation, sidecars to either side of Miles Sanders. Sanders will hand off to Joel Shaw. Shaw bouncing off of gray jerseys, and he will leap over another one, and he will be brought down at the 5-yard line. It's a 1st down and more for the big fella.
And right now, Woodland Hills just needs to keep rolling with, a big dose of Miles Sanders, a big dose of Joel Shaw. Now, we are in the same situation that we were in at the end of the first half. Woodland Hills knows this, and they really want to drive that in and get those points on the board.
Shoeless Joel Shaw. And if you aren't aware, Joel Shaw ran for a 27-yard touchdown without a left shoe.
Woodland Hills really needs to get going on this play with play clock under 10 seconds.
Coach Novak had a tough time making a decision on the play, and by the time Miles Sanders was running in, there was just 8 seconds to go on the play clock, so the Wolverines are forced to burn a timeout with 8:13 to go in the 4th quarter. It's 27-13, West Allegheny over Woodland Hills. You're tuned into the Wolverines and the Indians all across the Woodland Hills Football Network. $8:13 to play in the 4th quarter. Woodland Hills with the ball, 1st and goal at the 5-yard line of the West Allegheny Indians. A 14-point lead for West A. Miles Sanders now the quarterback for the Wolverines. He'll hand off to Art Tompkins, who bounces right, bounces further right, and will carry the ball into the end zone for a Woodland Hills touchdown.
And Adam, I was just about to mention ball security. It looked like that snap was a little high. Miles Sanders did a great job of getting it down and putting it in the belly of Art Tompkins. And once you get Art Tompkins on the perimeter, it's kind of hard to stop him.
So a 5-yard touchdown rather for Art Tompkins makes it an 8-point game right now. The Wolverines will go for 1. There's an injured West Allegheny Indian out there. That's Danny Guilfoyle, who is shaken up back near the initial line of scrimmage. But that was a very well-run play by Woodland Hills, Fred. It was Art Tompkins on the left. He hands off. The counter to the right allowed Art Tompkins to bounce it to the outside and score.
Yeah, very impressive play, and a good job of Art of bouncing off, some tacklers that were on his way to, stop him short of the end zone, but got around him and got into the end zone for a Woodland Hills touchdown.
And after Art Tompkins was really the offensive star of the first couple weeks of the season, he's been pretty quiet lately.
Yeah, I mean, when you have Miles Sanders and Joel Shaw doing what they've done pretty much all year long, sometimes some players get missed, and unfortunately Art Tompkins has been one of those players.
John Leone on to attempt the point after touchdown. Good snap, good hold. The kick is up, and that kick is good. And with 8:08 to play in quarter number 4, it's West Allegheny 27 and Woodland Hills 20. You're tuned into the Wolverines and the Indians all across the Woodland Hills Football Network. A 5-minute and 28-second drive for the Woodland Hills Wolverines, covering 66 yards, is capped off by a 5-yard touchdown run by number 5, Art Tompkins. Snap a bit high, as Fred mentioned before the commercial break, but Miles Sanders, who now runs the quarterback for the Wolverines, was able to gather it in and hand it off to Art Tompkins, who ran around the right end for the TD. The PAT up and in for John Leone, and it's a 7-point game with 8:08 to play.
Yeah, and I'm not exactly sure why Jeremiah Jones isn't in the ballgame. I'm not sure if it was because he's been ineffective most of the game or if he's had some sort of injury.
Well, Jones has his helmet on. He was standing along the sidelines. He could have said something to the coaches. He could have been hanging his head. Something could have affected him being part of this football game. And the kick by John Leone, the Wolverines tried for a little bit of a surprise onside, bounced out of bounds along the near boundary. And West Allegheny will have the football at the 25-yard line.
Adam, I'm going to correct myself. Not ineffective most of the game, ineffective pretty much most of the second half.
That's correct. I mean, he was ineffective for the first quarter and in the second half, but the final drive of quarter number 2, he was as magical as we've seen him all season long.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, if it's just an ineffective thing, I wouldn't be so surprised if Coach Novak put him out there if Woodland Hills is down with under 2 minutes to play.
The crowd ignited again here. West Allegheny, they're going to run the Wildcat. And the ball carrier is Armand Delavade. who took the direct snap and picked up about 4 yards.
And Delevate has actually probably been West A's most consistent player with what he's done in the passing game as well as the running game.
Yeah, Delevate today with 4 carries for 20 yards. 5 carries for 20 yards, a 4-yard per carry average. He also has 4 receptions for 95 yards and a touchdown. So outside of the quarterback, Andrew Coaster, who has thrown for 265 yards and 3 touchdowns, Delevate really has been a top weapon. Armin Delevate again in the shotgun. High snap. He's going to run to his left. He'll be met in the backfield. A nice play there by Laquan Bowden.
And really, it's about time these linebackers for Woodland Hills have shown up. They've done some good things earlier in part of the game, but right now they really need to step up. When you have 3 quality linebackers like Lee, Bowden, Johnson, these guys really need to step up in big situations like this.
Also in on that play, Damon Johnson, who you mentioned, Fred. It's 3rd down and 9 for the Wolverines. The ball at the 36-yard line.
Watch the screen.
Coaster is back in here on 3rd down and 9 for the Indians. Coaster looking left, has time. As he runs to his right, he'll look back left. He'll throw the ball, and it is incomplete. The ball was in the hands of the receiver, but Mike Nash chucked that receiver to the turf. The ball is incomplete. Tyler Amadori not able to hang on to it, and the Wolverine fans are on their feet as the comeback has started. Now the offense has to come through again.
Excellent job of Mike Nash of staying home, not biting on the rollout by Coaster and just staying home and making a nice play on the ball to separate it from the receiver.
The punt unit is on. Trips to the right. Now they will motion to send another blocker in. A fake punt, and it is nowhere close to a first down. Woodland Hills saw it coming from a mile away as Armin Delevade tried the fake punt over left guard. He is brought down after just a 3-yard gain, and that gives Woodland Hills the football at the West A 39.
Now I thought they might run a fake, but with the punter instead of Delevade. But Delevade's done a great job today. But the punter, who has a rugby-style punt, and I believe it's number 17.
It is.
Tyler Amador, has the green light. He can run anytime he wants. They just didn't use him.
So Woodland Hills has the football at the West Allegheny 39-yard line with 6:23 to play. Miles Sanders is the quarterback as he runs to the left, has 2 blockers out in front of him. Sanders picking up positive yards as he is brought down right near the 35-yard line. A pickup of make it 3 at the 36.
Take what West A gives you. I mean, obviously Woodland Hills can break at anything at any time against anybody, but this defense for West A has been stingy for pretty much most of the game.
Amon Baldwin Youngblood shaken up, and he comes off the field. And that sends a reserve left tackle out there in Eric Mitchell, the 6'3", 300-pound junior. Handoff to Joel Shaw, bouncing it right, inside of the 35. The ball comes loose. West A says they have it. There were 2 Woodland Hills offensive linemen near the football. The officials are unpiling bodies. There has yet to be a signal. West A football. Oh, no. And that is the second time here in the second half where the momentum had clearly shifted to the Woodland Hills side of the field, and a mistake by the Wolverines cost them the momentum.
Still got 6.5 minutes left to play.
Look at Jeremiah Jones. He's been pulled from the football game, but as the offense comes on the field, he's the first one out there giving them 5. That's leadership.
Yep, and that's what he needs. I mean, we don't know exactly why he was pulled, but I mean, if you really need to get yourself focused back into the game, you know, things like this happen. There's still some time on the clock. You still have to execute.
So West Allegheny with the football. Stevens, the ball carrier. He'll burst through a hole and be brought down at the 34-yard line. A pickup on that play of about 2 yards. Brings up 2nd down and 8.
And with the exception of the one long pass by Coaster, he really hasn't made too much noise in the second half.
West Allegheny again starting this drive at their own 32-yard line after a fumble by Joel Shaw. Coaster's back to pass. He's pressured. Runs left. Dumps the ball to the ground. Was there a receiver in the vicinity? The official says there is, and it will just be an incomplete pass, no grounding.
I was looking for the flag on that one. I didn't think that he was trying to put the ball to a receiver, more so just trying to dump it to avoid the sack.
Well, he did do that, but there was a dark gray jersey close enough. After the pressure was applied early and late on that play. Second straight incompletion for Coaster after he completed 7 straight. Coaster in the shotgun. Sidecar to his right, trips to the right. One receiver to the short side left. And I think West A is going to use a timeout here. Bob Palco and his staff not happy with what they saw from their offense on that one. That'll give us an opportunity to take a breather. 3rd and 7 for the West Allegheny Indians. The ball at their own 35. Woodland Hills down by 7. You're tuned into the Wolverines and the Indians all across the Woodland Hills Football Network. Third down and 7 for the West Allegheny Indians. They lead our Woodland Hills Wolverines 27-20 with 4:37 to play in quarter number 4. West Allegheny with the football after a fumble by Joel Shaw. Coaster, straight drop back, pressured late as he rolls to his left. Looks across the middle. The pass is thrown and well incomplete. The intended receiver, Tyler Scanlon, just in the vicinity of the football, nowhere near catching it. And again, the punt unit will come out for West Allegheny.
Last time West Allegheny tried to run the punt fake, it didn't work. This time they're better off putting the ball, at least punting the ball deep. But you got Art Tompkins back there, and I'm sure Miles Sanders isn't too far away, so anything's possible right now.
And again, West Allegheny sets up with trips to the left of the punt formation. You saw Delavade run the fake punt. This time it is Amadori. Has the punt blocked! The ball is loose on the carpet! West Allegheny jumps on it. It's a turnover on downs after the blocked punt. Woodland Hills has the football at the West Allegheny 14.
Was not a smart play by the punter, but a great job of Woodland Hills of bringing the house. I think the only person that was left back there was Art Tompkins, and Woodland Hills did a great job. Amendola didn't try to really, he tried to kick the ball, but by the time he made that decision, there were 5 Wolverines around him.
And you'll credit the blocked punt to number 39, Rasan McKnight, who over the past couple weeks has emerged on special teams. The sophomore has done great things lately.
And then you got Jeremiah Jones coming back in at quarterback.
So they say that the ball was covered up by West Allegheny at the 13. So that's where Woodland Hills will have the ball, at the West A 13. With 4:22 to play. Jones will hand off to Joel Shaw. Shaw pounding his way forward down to the 6-yard line.
Great show of confidence that Coach Novak had in Joel Shaw after the fumble, giving him the ball again, and him picking up good yardage on first down.
So Jeremiah Jones has returned to the lineup. He handed off there as Joel Shaw picked up 7. Joel Shaw now with 80 yards on the ground. He has a touchdown and a fumble lost. He also has a fumble recovery to his credit. Sidecars to either side of Jones. Ganna motions from left to right. Handoff. Miles Sanders straight into the end zone for a Woodland Hills touchdown. And the Wolverines are a point away from tying this football game.
Now, Adam, here's your dilemma. What do? You've have one missed PAT already. Do you want to go for the win? You go for the tie. I mean, there's still 3:34 left on the clock. It looks like they're going to go for one.
Well, out there is the young man, John Leone, who had a great game against Upper St. Clair. Rickard with a good snap and a good hold. And Woodland Hills took a timeout as the ball was being snapped. I mean, it was a good snap, a good hold, and the kick was good by Leone, and this game was tied. But a timeout was called, and now Woodland Hills is going to put the offense out on the field, Freddie.
That is an interesting move by Coach Novak. It's a gutsy call by any means, but I mean, if you feel that confident that you can get those 3 yards on this play and then put some pressure on West Allegheny to march down on your defense that has done a great job these past 2 series, you really can't go away from that call.
Well, the adage is, at home, play for the tie. On the road, play for the win. And that's what the Wolverines are doing. They're on the road. They're in Imperial. They're down by 1 point right now. Go for the win. Go for the 2.
Remember, Adam, this game doesn't really mean too much.
Sure. Coach Novak said it in the pregame show. He said it in the newspapers. It's all about pride. And right now, a lot of pride on the line with this 2-point conversion. The Wolverine fans begin to stand to their feet. The West A fans do the same. Shotgun formation. Jones with sidecars to either side. Handoff. Joel Shaw right into the end zone for the 2-point conversion over left guard, and the Wolverines take the first lead of the second half, 28-27.
Adam, I believe it's the first lead of the game for Woodland Hills.
No, the Wolverines were on top, Fred, 7-3.
I forgot about that. My bad.
But how about that? Joel Shaw taking the carry over left guard. It looked initially like there was no way he was going to be stopped, but the Indians met him at the goal line, but he was still able to out-muscle Chase Dillon at the goal line and cross that goal line for the 2-pointer. Well, the 2-headed monster got it done on that drive. It was Sanders with the touchdown, Shaw with the 2-pointer.
Was there any doubt that Shaw wasn't going to get the ball? You got 3 yards. You got a 227-pound fullback that has a little bit of anger in him because of the fumble. Great job of just getting Woodland Hills into the end zone for the 2-point conversion.
Now it is the Woodland Hills defense that needs to step up, and they have done so here in quarter number 4. John Leone out there to kick off. Woodland Hills fans, if you left this game early, shame on you for a month of Sundays. Right now, Woodland Hills on top, 28-27. The first lead for Woodland Hills since West Allegheny scored with 9 minutes to play in the second quarter. John Leone's kickoff, bouncing, rolling, and finally bounces over the goal line and into the end zone for a touchback. Took that ball a long time to get across the goal line around Whitney White, and it will be West A with the football at the 20-yard line.
Player awareness right now is what Woodland Hills needs to do. They need to make sure that they're focusing on all the key players coming out of the backfield. Armand Delavade, who's had a great game so far, really need to make sure that you put a helmet on him or somebody shadowing him. And don't forget about number 17 on the outside. Tyler Amador has done a great job as well.
2 receivers right, 1 to the far side left. Coaster sends a man in motion from right to left in Scanlon. Coaster has some time as he rolls to his right. Now he'll step up. The ball is loose. Does Kevin Solomon fall on it? I believe he does. A strip sack and a fumble recovery. Woodland Hills has the ball with 3:27 to go.
Very impressive by the Woodland Hills defense. That's exactly what they needed right now. A turnover deep in West Allegheny territory. Coaster was looking for a receiver, couldn't find anybody. Nice strip sack. Woodland Hills definitely has the momentum going their way right now.
That is for sure. And the Wolverines were just relentless. And the strip sack will go to, you give the sack to Amon Baldwin Youngblood, and the strip
looks like
to William Fletcher.
44, William Fletcher. Great job.
Fletcher hit the arm. Wow. And then it was Kevin Solomon, the big fella, the 4-year starter on the defensive line with the fumble recovery.
You know, a great job of also Jeremiah Jones of rallying his team when they really needed somebody to pick them up. He did a great job of, you know, getting in the ear of everybody to get them on the right page and get Woodland Hills into the situation that they're in.
So again, the strip sack, Amon Baldwin Youngblood and William Fletcher. And then it was the recovery by Kevin Solomon. Now it's Miles Sanders carrying the ball to the right, inside of the 15, to the far boundary, out of bounds inside of the 10.
It's going to be an interesting spot. It looked like he ran right towards the lead stick on the other side of the field.
And they will set the ball at the 9-yard line, so it's a pickup of 9 for Woodland Hills.
And I certainly wouldn't leave the stadium even if Woodland Hills scores.
Me neither. Jeremiah Jones, he'll hand off to big Joe Elshaw, who runs left, runs over Indians, and across the goal line for a Woodland Hills touchdown, his second score of the game, and the Wolverines are on top by 7.
And I'm looking for flags, and I'm not seeing nothing. That's just good, hard-nosed football by Woodland Hills, taking 2 plays to get themselves into the end zone after completely taking the momentum back to this side of the field.
That's just an old-fashioned 35 wham. Into the end zone goes Joe Elshaw, dragging a West A Indian with him. The Wolverines on top by 7. John Leone can make it 8. High snap by Rickard, good hold by Whitehurst, and the PAT is up and in for Leone, and with 3:15 to play, Woodland Hills is on top of West Allegheny 35-27. This game felt like it was over, but things have changed. You're tuned into the Wolverines and the Indians all across the Woodland Hills Football Network. A 9-yard touchdown run by Joe Elshaw as Wolverines ran a play where Shaw took the handoff from the right of Jones, followed Sanders, and big Danny Gibson into the end zone for the Woodland Hills touchdown. Just an incredible play and an incredible fourth quarter for the Black and Turquoise after trailing West Allegheny by 14 points, 27-13.
Yeah, that's the key, the turnaround. These guys did not let anything fade their, thought process on how they were going to get themselves back into this game.
West Allegheny has the football, first down and 10 at the 30-yard line after a squib kick by John Leone. So 3:14 to play here. Now the game's far from over. It's just an 8-point lead for Woodland Hills. West Allegheny has showed explosive offense, but Woodland Hills has secured momentum. The defense has played spectacularly after allowing the long touchdown halfway through quarter number 3 rather. The pass, the screen to the near side. And again, a screen results in big yards for Armin Delavade as he carries the ball up to the 45-yard line, a 14-yard pickup on that screen pass. Woodland Hills has to be aware of those screen passes as again Armin Delavade comes up with a big catch. 109 yards in receiving for Armin Delavade. Ball carrier to the near side is Delavade, and he is brought down inbounds for a gain of just 2.
And what I noticed, Adam, is they're still not accounting for Delavade on the field as he's coming out of the backfield. That's got to be their main person they're looking for right now.
Gain of 1 for Delavade. He now has 18 yards rushing. 2nd and 9 for the Indians. Clock winding to 2:20 to play. High snap. Coaster gathers it in. Throws to his left. The pass intended for Tyler Scanlon is off the mark. And that brings up 3rd down and 9 for West A with the ball at their own 46-yard line.
And this is pressure time for Coaster as well. Now, if I'm Woodland Hills, what I'm doing is I'm focusing on two players. Delavave, number 42, and number 44, Orsini. Those two have been his main targets so far in this game. I would imagine he would want to go back to them.
So it's 3rd down and 9 as the clock is stopped with 2:17 to play here in the fourth quarter. Woodland Hills overcame a 14-point deficit to score 22 consecutive points. It's an 8-point lead for the Wolverines. Coaster in the shotgun. Straight drop back. Pressured. He'll step up. He'll throw. The pass is complete across the middle for a West A first down. On the reception is Sean Orsini inside of Woodland Hills territory at the 36.
Yeah, and he's coming from his tight end position, so there's a linebacker that really needs to cover him anytime that he goes out into a route or runs anything off the line of scrimmage.
18-yard completion to Orsini. And Orsini now has 44 yards on 4 catches. And again, the crossing screen is complete for the West Allegheny Indians, and another first down. On the reception this time for West A is Danny Guilfoyle, who had a big touchdown reception in half number 1.
And Coaster kind of ran that to perfection because you had the running back coming in motion across the way. He looked at him initially and then looked right back into Guilfoyle.
Guilfoyle, second catch of the game, this one for 14 yards. He has 82 yards on 2 catches and a touchdown. Coaster in the shotgun. Pumps right. He'll be hit as he releases the football. The pass will carry into the end zone, incomplete. Woodland Hills did not bite on the pump fake whatsoever. Malik Flowers actually the closest player to the football on the field.
And don't forget about R. Tompkins, because R. Tompkins was playing quarterback out there and did a great job of, like you said, nobody bit on the fake for that time for Woodland Hills. And Adam, I'm thinking that might be the first time that West A has tried to go down the field with a significant pass, or a significant pass play, I should say.
.311 yards in the air for Coaster. It's 2nd down and 10 as Coaster's in the shotgun. He looks left the whole way. He throws left, and the pass is incomplete. He was looking for Danny Guilfoyle. Man-to-man coverage by Mike Nash.
And if I'm Coaster, that's probably one of the last players I want to try to test in this situation, as Mike Nash has been pretty much a shutdown cover corner since the second week. He's been pretty much locking players down.
We saw a season ago, especially in the latter portions of the regular season and the playoffs, how effective Mike Nash can be in the Woodland Hills secondary. It's 3rd and 10 for West A with the ball at the Woodland Hills 23-yard line. Woodland Hills on top by 8 points, 35-27. West A out of the huddle. Shotgun formation. Empty set. Across the middle. Coaster finds a receiver in the middle. A pickup of about 5 as it's right into the hands of Sean Orsini.
And that was a good job of the middle linebacker, just staying home and not fight or biting on any fakes or anything like that, and stopped Orsini for a 4th down play.
The football game could be decided right here. Coaster in the shotgun on 4th down and 5. He'll step up to the line of scrimmage and then check with the sideline.
He might be trying to draw the defense off sides.
Still 10 seconds to go on the play clock. As Coaster has 2 receivers left. He'll look right. He'll throw right. The pass is complete to Orsini. Or no, it's complete rather to Danny Guilfoyle, who was down at the 1-yard line. So on 4th and 10, at the 16-yard line, West Allegheny picks up 15 yards down to the Woodland Hills 1.
Probably going to be a quarterback sneak as big as Coaster is. He might just lunge over the goal line for the touchdown.
And a timeout on the field. There's a flag, and I'm not sure why. And it's against the Wolverines. Illegal substitution or illegal participation. Either way, with the ball at the 1-yard line, it doesn't matter that much. West Allegheny 1 yard away from making this a 2-point game.
And they really need to hurry up because it looks like the play clock and the scoreboard clock are running.
Yeah, the game clock is running. And reaching is the quarterback. And he will get the ball across the goal line. Andrew Coaster gets it across the goal line for the West A touchdown with 16 seconds to play. It's a 2-point game, and obviously West Allegheny has to go for the 2-point conversion here. Coaster, you said it, Fred. He's a big guy, 6'4", 190, and he was stuffed at the line of scrimmage, but leaped a couple of times and leaned that ball across the goal line for the West A TD. So a good ride on this play here, this special teams play. Coaster under center, motion man from right to left. Coaster rolls to his right, dumps it off, and it is caught for a 2-point conversion. Again, coming out of the backfield and making a reception is Armand Delevade.
And you really got to give a lot of that 2-point conversion to Coaster, who did a great job of play faking through that play and basically held the linebackers in the secondary and hit Delevade in the flats for the 2-point conversion.
Well, that short passing game has killed Woodland Hills all night, and it did it there. And that is virtually the same play that Armand Delevade scored on in the first half on a 9-yard touchdown.
The exact same play.
So we're all knotted up at 35. Woodland Hills stormed back from a 14-point deficit. But West Allegheny got the ball with 3 minutes and 14 seconds to play and took the next 3 minutes to put 8 points on the board and tie this game at 35 all. You have to assume West A wants to keep the ball away from Art Tompkins and Miles Sanders. We saw Art Tompkins at the end of the Bethel Park game return a kickoff for a touchdown to clinch the victory. Can that same magic happen here in Imperial? A low kick will be caught by the front lineman. That is Asan Ganem. And Woodland Hills has the football in pretty decent field position at the 47-yard line with 15 seconds to go. .15 seconds to play here. Woodland Hills with the football at their own 47-yard line. If Woodland Hills wants to avoid overtime, they need to score here. Jeremiah Jones, straight drop back, has time, now pressured as he rolls to his left. He's going to tuck and run here with 7 seconds to play. He'll race out of bounds inside of West A territory, right near the first down marker.
And he gives himself a little bit of a better shot to maybe try to throw the ball into the end zone for a jump ball situation.
Carry of 9 there for Jeremiah Jones. Jeremiah Jones, who was pulled from this football game, returned to the lineup and helped lead the Wolverines to the lead. Now the game tied at 35 all. 5.2 seconds to play. Woodland Hills with the ball, first down and 10. High snap, Jones gathers it in. He's going to throw it off to Miles Sanders. Sanders runs right, still on his feet to the far boundary. He has the first down as he gets out of bounds, and that will be the end of regulation. We are headed to overtime for the first time in a long time.
Would you expect anything less?
Not at all. In the biggest game of the year, that means absolutely nothing. Well, we'll step away as we head to quarter number 5. It's the Woodland Hills Wolverines 35 and the West Allegheny Indians 35. You're tuned in to the Wolverines and the Indians all across the Woodland Hills Football Network. We are in the midst of a 3-minute intermission between regulation and overtime. Woodland Hills has won all but one overtime game in program history. The first overtime game came in a victory over Butler in 1996. Woodland Hills won that football game and won every other overtime game except for the last time they were in overtime. Now, I don't remember exactly when that was, but I know the Wolverines did lose that game in a very unfortunate circumstance. And the way things have gone here, Fred, after Woodland Hills trailing by 14 points, it would be a shame to see the Wolverines end up losing after the game tied at 35 all headed into overtime.
Yeah, it should. I mean, defensively, they've really stepped up on the last 2 out of 3 drives. The last one being the touchdown that they gave up just right before the quarter ended. But offensively, they're hitting on all cylinders right now, and they're just doing a good job. And hopefully, the defense really needs to come up big right now.
The West Allegheny Indians had not scored since about 2 minutes to play in quarter number 3, prior to that touchdown with about 15 seconds to play. So there will be a coin flip out at midfield. Now, there are some new coin flip rules in the WPIAL, and a lot of that has to do with there being a initial coin flip 30 minutes before kickoff, followed by a secondary coin flip, which is basically just for show, right before kickoff. So I don't know how the overtime kickoff works. Are the coaches allowed out there or not? It doesn't appear so, as Coach Novak retreats back to the sideline, as does Bob Palco. So I don't know if that changes things at all or not. But, you know, it seemed like Coach Novak gave Big Dan Gibson the instructions that he needed. And should Woodland Hills win the toss here, it's an interesting decision. You put the defense out there and hope your defense makes a stop and you can score at any time. Or you try to score first and dare West Allegheny to score.
Yeah, honestly, I would be defense first. See what you come up with, and see where you need to be after the first after your opponent has the ball in overtime.
And that seems to be the general consensus in these college and high school overtimes. You know, give the opponent the ball first, then you know what you need to do to win the football game. The captains head out to the middle of the field. Captains for Woodland Hills, Mike Nash, Danny Gibson, Hassan Ganem, and Jihad Brown. 4 captains out there for West Allegheny as well, as the referee shows the 2 teams the coin. He reviews some of the overtime rules as well. Woodland Hills will have the opportunity to call the toss in the air as the visitors. And we will see what the decision is. It appears that West A has won the toss, as Woodland Hills is deciding on the side of the field. West A wins the toss. They have elected to go on defense first, which gives Woodland Hills the football. It will be 1st and 10 for Woodland Hills, with the ball at the 10-yard line facing the scoreboard end zone to our left-hand side.
Now, the upside to this is West A hasn't been able to stop Woodland Hills when they had the ball inside their 10-yard line since the last play of the first half.
As we take a look at the field here, some good news is that the wind seems to be prevailing from right to left across the field, a slight push to the far sideline, but for the most part, if Woodland Hills would be forced to kick a field goal, the wind is to the back of John Leone, which is good news, obviously.
Anytime you get a wind-aided kick, certainly could go well for yourself. Now, Adam, as I'm looking at the field, here's the one thing that I have noticed over the last couple of minutes is that Joel Shaw has been limping. I'm not sure if somebody stepped on his foot, or his ankle or whatever the case may be, but that could turn into a bad situation for Woodland Hills, especially if he has to come out of the game.
Joel Shaw scoring a touchdown on the last drive for Woodland Hills prior to the end of regulation. Jones, shotgun, sidecars to either side. Handoff, Miles Sanders, hole over right tackle. He will leap over a West Day Indian inside of the 5, brought down at the 3-yard line. A pickup of about 7 for Miles Sanders on the first play of overtime.
And it didn't look like Joel Shaw had any effects of him hobbling on that last play. Nice play fake by Jeremiah Jones into the belly of Joel Shaw, and then gave the ball off to Miles Sanders, who almost got into the end zone.
Jeremiah Jones gets the play from Coach Novak along the sideline and right back into the huddle. 2nd and goal at the 3 for the Wolverines. Motion man Hassan Ganem from right to left. Handoff, Joel Shaw running left, turning right, driving his way towards the goal line. He'll be brought down at the 1, or it'll be 3rd down and goal.
If I'm Coach Novak, I'm probably going to go right back to Joel Shaw. At this point, he's been your bull. I mean, he's gotten into the end zone from short yardage before, but coincidentally, he's also been stopped as well.
Now, from our vantage point, it looked like Joel Shaw got all the way down to the 1-yard line, but the ball is spotted at the 2, so it is just a 1-yard carry for Joel Shaw, who has 90 yards on the ground.
Or
today.
you can give it to Miles Sanders and let him go around the right end.
Shotgun, sidecars to either side as Ganem motions from left to right. Handoff. Sanders to the right, cutting it back, across the goal line for the touchdown. Woodland Hills on top, 41-35.
And just as that came out of my mouth, that's exactly what was happening.
So John Leone will come on to attempt the point after touchdown. Out of the hold of Whitehurst. High snap, good hold, PAT up, and no good as it carries wide right. Well, that's not good news for the Wolverines because West Allegheny has a terrific kicker. And Rickard's snap was high. Whitehurst got it down, but the kick carried to the right, and Woodland Hills on top right now, 41-35, a precarious lead. Well, if you're at this stadium right now and you are not on your feet, shame on you. An exciting, exciting football game in the West Hills of Pittsburgh. So West Day will have the ball at the Woodland Hills 10-yard line. 1st down and goal. 4 tries to crack the goal line. Woodland Hills did so on a 2-yard touchdown run by Miles Sanders. The PAT missed. Coaster rolls to his right. Pumps, and now he'll run, and he will go end over end, and he will be downed where? They'll say somewhere around the 2. But boy, that was dangerous for Coaster as he was hit in midair and then went end over end, and his back hit hard at the 2. West Day with the ball at the 1, actually. So this is arguably the football game here because West Day has been so good in the kicking game. Coaster under center, eye backfield behind him. He'll hand off and straight into the end zone over left guard goes the tailback, Chase Dillon. Chase Dillon, just his 3rd carry of the football game, is a 1-yard touchdown run.
And they really did nothing fancy on that play, Adam. They just ran right over left guard, and Chase Dillon, who's pretty much been in the end zone all this season, did a great job of just punching it in.
Obviously, Woodland Hills going to take a timeout here, not only in an attempt to ice DJ Obstanek, but to also, try to design as much of an efficient block as they can.
Yeah, I mean, West Day has done just a great job in special teams, especially on point afters and field goals. And right now, Woodland Hills really just needs to come off the edge as fast as possible and try to disrupt that extra point.
Two missed extra points today, rather, for John Leone. One was made up for on a 2-point conversion to give Woodland Hills an 8-point lead, 35-35. But the missed extra point in overtime certainly can be costly. And there are 3 key components to any field goal or extra point. There's the snap, there's the hold, there's the kick. And obviously there was a breakdown somewhere. Heads hung low here along the near sideline. We're tied at 41 all. DJ Opstanek on to attempt the point after touchdown. Woodland Hills going to bring it with all the heart and soul, trying to block it. Good snap. And the PAT is up. And that point after touchdown is good. And the West Allegheny Indians defeat the Woodland Hills Wolverines 42-41 in overtime. The Woodland Hills Wolverines overcame a 14-point deficit to take an 8-point lead, 35-27. But West Allegheny came back and scored 8 points in the final 3 minutes of the football game, tying the game up at 35 all. The Wolverines scored first in overtime, but the PAT wide right. West Allegheny scores on the second play of their offensive opportunity in overtime, and the PAT is good, and Woodland Hills loses for the first time this season.
Really expect both these teams to be back at Heinz Field come the season end, or at the end of this Whippeal Championships. This was one of the best games I think I've ever seen as a color analyst for Woodland Hills. Just so much back and forth, so much momentum swings. It was just a fantastic football game.
It was, but it didn't go the Wolverines' way. And really put some perspective on this. Woodland Hills again was down by 14 points, 27-13 in the third quarter. It seemed like all was lost. The Wolverines stormed back. They scored 22 unanswered points to hold a 35-27 lead. West Allegheny got the ball with just over 3 minutes to play in regulation. They drove the ball down the field, did what they did all game long with dink and dunk, short passes, costing the Wolverines. And not only did West Allegheny score on a 1-yard touchdown run, they scored the 2-point conversion on a short pass, which led to the overtime. Woodland Hills scores first via the running game, like they usually do. The problem was that missed PAT by John Leone. And unfortunately, that's going to haunt him at least for a week.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. You really need to get over that kind of quick because you have a ball game next week that really does matter with an upstart Mount Lebanon team. They've done really well so far, 5-1 in the season. Only lost to Penn Hills. They're still in the hunt for a conference title and a good seeding in the playoffs.
That's for sure. They are in definitely contention for a share of the WPIL Quad A Southeastern Conference Championship, and a victory over Woodland Hills next week could certainly help bolster that. Woodland Hills just needs to overcome this loss and move into next week with their heads hung high headed into week number 8.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, right now you got to get back to work. You mean you absorb the sting of this loss till tomorrow, study films about Mount Lebanon, and then just fix what they came up short on tonight.
Again, your final score, 42-41. West Allegheny defeats Woodland Hills. The Wolverines are now 6-1 on the year, while West Allegheny improves to 7-0. For folks on the television side, we thank you for joining us no matter where you are across the Woodland Hills Football Network. We thank our television crew for all of their hard work getting here and getting us set up in an abbreviated amount of time. Folks on the radio side, stay tuned for the State Senator Jay Costa postgame show. Again, one more time, your final score, 42-41. West Allegheny defeats Woodland Hills. You've been tuned in to the Wolverines and the Indians all across the Woodland Hills Football Network.